Okay, it seems like we are still to speak to you. Is being actively. All right, everyone. Are we back? We should be back. We should be live again. It seems that we were being targeted. That we were being. That we were being. Perhaps a DNS attack. I can't be sure. I think on Rumble we're no longer on. I'm not sure. But we're going to continue to move forward. This is odd. It's amazing. Literally, we've been doing this for more than a year from this location. My internet has not been interrupted at all. But the channel was. The channel was kicked off by YouTube. It looked like we were still on Rumble for a while. It seems like we got attacked. Somebody didn't like what we had to say. And rather than to go into the chat and tell us, oh, well, we disagree because of this or that, rather than let you hear this and maybe you could change your vote. You might not vote. You might not vote Democrat. You might not vote for Kamala Harris. You might not support Democrats and their policies because that might have happened. It seems that they wanted to shut us down. Well, they interrupted the show for a little bit. I'm still here. I'm still more than happy to continue to move forward with the show. So the fact that they were trying to silence us, this is why it's important, folks, that you like, share, and subscribe. Because when you don't, they think they're winning. They think that they can control you, that they will cow you into silence, that they will attack us to make you be fearful of speaking up and saying what you think. We aren't afraid. Just because they make it difficult, well, you know what? They've been making it difficult for 18 years. And yet, we continue to persist. We continue to speak what we believe is the truth, what we believe are correct consequences. We continue to provide you with information so that you can make up your mind and decide for yourself. They're not going to stop that. They've denied us every opportunity. They've done a lot of things over the years to try and force us into silence and submission. It's not going to work. Not going to work. Been doing this too long. And making it difficult, it's always been difficult. So that's fine. I'm going to keep on talking here. So we were highlighting. Thank you, Grace, for letting me know that we're back. We had to start a new, I think it's a new live stream. I'm not sure. May have interrupted the chat on or the stream on Rumble. Not sure. But we're going to keep going. Because that was very, very odd. But that's fine. What they wanted to do is make sure that people see, there's this problem. Go away. Don't listen. Go to something else. Go watch a cat video. Go talk about the housewives of Who Gives a Damn. Go check out that football game. Go do anything than stay on this channel and hear something that might affect the way you vote. Rather than engage in your First Amendment right to free speech, go somewhere else. This is what they do when they can't. Mike's not making money. We denied him the ability to be monetized for years. We've suppressed the channel so that it's harder for people to see it and to have a conversation. No, that's not enough. We've buried him in the algorithm. That's not enough. Cut the feed. But I'm still here. Your like, share, subscribe is the only thing that fights against this, folks. And guaranteed, if they can get rid of my voice, they're coming after your voice next. They're going to go after everyone that you like, everyone you follow, everything. Whether it's Nerdrotic or it's Hard Lens Media, Larry Sharp, it doesn't matter what the voice is. They'll even go after Roland Martin if he ever says anything that isn't approved. They don't care. They will go after everyone until you obey. And the only people who are stopping you, and yes, I do mean Roland Martin, and I do mean Kit Cabello, I do mean Larry Sharp, Sabby Sabs. I mean all of those voices that you may follow, left, right, center. Anyone who isn't saying exactly what is being approved, they're all going to disappear if you don't support, if you don't like, share, and subscribe, because they have told you. Kamala has said it. John Kerry has said it. The Democratic Party has said it, that they want to have control over what you say. They call it misinformation. They call it disinformation. I'm quoting international news sources, and they call it, and they want to call it misinformation, disinformation. This is from credible international news sources. No. What they want is you to be silent and to obey. They want you to be a slave. That's what they want. Well, I will not comply. So, with that said, let me continue. I'm going to continue. I'm not sure how many channels I have up. I'm going to continue. So, in talking about the American hostages that are being held by Hamas, over a year. This is supposed to be his the primary priority of the Biden-Harris administration. Joe Biden's comment on the death of Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, he says, quote, Sinwar was an insurmountable obstacle to achieving all of the goals of getting the hostages released. That obstacle no longer exists, but much work remains before us. Where is the statement about American hostages? Where is the statement that says, give us back the hostages? France was more than happy to say it. Emmanuel Macron said, give us back the hostages. Netanyahu said, I'm going to continue to fight the war. Just because you lost one of your leaders doesn't mean the war's over. Joe Biden could have said, hey, we can have peace. Here's a ceasefire. Give us back the hostages. He could have said what Emmanuel Macron said, give us back the hostages. How about, let's go to the German foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock. And what does she say? Sinwar was a murderer, a brutal murderer and terrorist. She's correct. Who wanted to destroy Israel and its people. That's correct. He did say that. As the mastermind of the terror on October 7th, he brought death to thousands of people and immeasurable suffering to an entire region. There would not be a war in Gaza right now, a war with the Houthis, a war with Hezbollah, if it weren't for what Hamas did. Hamas must now release all hostages and lay down its weapons. The suffering of the people in Gaza must finally end. Gee, Joe Biden could have said that. He didn't. Kamala Harris could have said that. Matter of fact, what did Kamala Harris say? Here is exactly Kamala Harris running for the presidency, Democratic ticket. What does she have to say about the death of the leader of Hamas, who has objected to releasing American hostages for over a year? Speaking from Wisconsin College campus, she said, the war, quote, must end such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination. My God, that's a word salad. I'll give her credit, though. She did what Joe Biden didn't do. She actually mentioned the American hostages, but she didn't really mention American hostages. She said the hostages. The hostages for the entire world. And that's fantastic, except she's running for the presidency. There is a primary focus. She said herself, when she was speaking to ABC Philadelphia in an interview, she said this was her primary focus. She said in the debate with Donald Trump, this is her primary focus. She's focused on this every single day. Then why didn't you say the American hostages? Why did you say generically the hostages? Because you don't want American citizens to realize there are Americans who have been tortured and sexually abused and killed by Hamas for an entire year. That's why she didn't say American hostages. The French were happy to say they're talking about their hostages. The Germans were talking about the terrorism of Hamas. But no, what we hear from Kamala Harris, is she talking about Hamas? No, she talks about Palestine. No one cares about Palestine. This isn't about Palestine. It's about Hamas. It's about terrorism. She's talking about Gaza. No one's talking about Gaza. Gaza is a part of Israel. It's not a country, nor should it be. She's talking about everybody. We have to find a middle ground. There is no middle ground when you have a terrorist group that says that they will only stop fighting. This is the charter of Hamas. Hamas will never stop fighting until Israel is genocided, that they do not exist. That is what is the charter, the statement, the mission statement of Hamas. You cannot have a two-state peace treaty with that. You cannot have peace with someone who says you have to cease existing for them to stop fighting. It's unrealistic for Kamala Harris to say this. It is ignorant. It is childish. But more importantly, it's trying to manipulate the voters. This is how she tries to get the Dearborn, Michigan voters to think she's on their side, while she tries to reassure the rest of America that she's trying to get the hostages back, that her statement that this is a priority is true. That's what her statement says. It is useless. But I will give her credit. She at least acknowledged that there are still hostages a year later. I give her credit for that. But the rest of it, absolutely not. The Italian foreign minister, Antonio Tajani, has said, I hope that the disappearance of the Hamas leader will lead to a ceasefire in Gaza. You notice that's not what Joe Biden, that's not what Kamala Harris said. The British Defense Secretary John Healey says, quote, I, for one, will not mourn the death of a terror leader like Sinwar. I agree with him. Someone who was responsible for the terror attack on October 7th. I agree with the British Defense Secretary. He goes on to say, and I am conscious, like the UK government, it is that triggered not just the darkest, deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Second World War, but it's triggered since more than a year of conflict and an intolerable level of civilian Palestinian casualties as well. This is all the fault of Hamas and Iran. He put it on the line. He's made it very clear. You didn't hear that from Kamala Harris. You didn't hear that from Joe Biden. But it's their primary focus. It is their priority. Okay, fine. Let me see here. Hey, Dal. So Dal says, YouTube is cutting in and out on different devices. Some can access you and some are getting a stream end screen. Okay. There is no middle ground. Grace says there's no middle ground with terrorists. Didn't Bush used to say we don't negotiate with terrorists? I guess those days are gone. Yes, they are gone. They've been long gone, Grace. When we've been buying back American hostages under the Obama administration, those days are long gone. But I want you to see what is being said around the world about this. Because it's important. Because if we don't, well, we got a problem. And by the way, the problem is bigger than just Sinwar being dead and not having Joe Biden, Kamala Harris respond about the hostages being as generic and as distant as they can, trying to minimize the impact of 22 Americans being held hostage and most of them being killed by Hamas. No, they want to distance themselves from that. Well, here's something else they're trying to distance themselves from. And this came out today, Sunday, the 20th, 3 o'clock. Yeah, 2:50. So right as the show started, the U.S. is investigating leaked documents that are alleging Israel's plan to attack Iran. So somebody in the United States under the Biden-Harris administration is providing Iran with documents, apparently. Someone is a traitor to the United States. Someone is helping Iran. Someone is helping the greatest sponsor of terror in the world, and it's probably coming from the United States. U.S. officials say documents appear to be legitimate, and House Speaker says the leak is very concerning. Now, this is coming from The Guardian. The Guardian right now has put it initially wasn't, but now it's behind a firewall. But I have to ask you, if documents are coming from the Biden-Harris administration and it is being leaked to Iran, what the hell is going on? And their priority is to get peace in the Middle East. They're supposed to be supporting Israel. They're supposed to be trying to get help for the Palestinian people. They're giving the information. This is a betrayal of our ally. It is an act of a traitor. And when that is considered, I have to think of John Kerry. Oh, I know. Most people forgot about this. Did you forget that John Kerry, in April 27th of 2021, right after the start of the Biden-Harris administration, April 2021, it was revealed that John Kerry was helping, he was aiding and abetting the people of the Iranians by providing secret information. This came from U.S. intelligence, and he was giving information from U.S. intelligence to Iran against our ally, Israel. I know everyone forgot. It's 3 years ago. It was in 2021, so long ago. Nobody remembers it. I had a goatee back then. Nobody remembers that this was happening. I remember it. I didn't forget. Because it sounds like the same exact thing. The United States is in a difficult situation dealing with Iran and its puppet terrorist organizations. And suddenly, information from deep within the United States that would substantially alter the way that Israel and the Middle East are going to conduct themselves comes from the U.S. government and is suddenly given to Iran. Information about Israel and their security is suddenly leaking through the Biden-Harris administration to Iran. It happened before. John Kerry was Secretary of State under the Obama-Biden administration, and he gave information then to Iran, and now Iran is getting even more information. It sounds like, what's the common theme? Biden, John Kerry. They're both in charge. I could see that. Now, I could be wrong. This is a theory of mine. I'm not saying that it's an absolute fact, but I am looking at what we know. John Kerry has been alleged to being a traitor before. It has been stated that documents did exist showing that John Kerry was giving information, secret information, to Iran that was about Israel, our ally. And again, we have that same scenario happening. And John Kerry is still part of the Biden-Harris administration. At the same time that Joe Biden is a part-time zombie president, that he is only in office 5 days a week. He only works from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Is it possible that John Kerry, the former Secretary of State, who works very closely with the World Economic Forum, that he could have gotten that information about Israel, what it is doing, and handed it off to Iran, possibly to try and get Iran on the side of the Biden administration for the Iran nuclear deal to get back the hostages. For God knows what his reasoning is. Is that possible at this time? Yes. Is that a realistic scenario? Yes. I'm not saying it is that. It is realistic. It is possible. There are enough questions. There are enough similarities. There are enough loose ends to say that that may be what we are seeing at this moment, because it has happened in the past. But the mainstream news media doesn't want to talk about that. Mainstream media does not want you to think about that, not 15 days before the election. Now, this may turn out to be yet another situation. How many times have we gone 6 months later and suddenly, hey, we found out the truth? 6 months ago, the thing that they said couldn't possibly be true was the truth. 2 years ago, the thing they said isn't possible to be the truth is the truth. How many times do we have to see the news media go, oh, we didn't know that was the truth? We lied to you. You're not supposed to remember. How many times? How many times? Grace says, I know the Iranian people suffer. They do. Women and kids in particular. I grieve for what they endure. So do I. To be fair, when I speak about Iran, I speak about Hamas, I speak about Hezbollah, I'm talking about terrorist organizations. I'm talking about the government of Iran. I'm not talking about the people. I don't think I ever mention the people. I talk about the government. I talk about the leadership. I talk about their militaries. I feel bad for the Iranian people because they have to suffer this. I don't think that Iran should poison their schoolgirls, girls going to school in Iran, because they learned how to read and write, women learning to drive cars and go to work. I don't think they should be punished for that. I empathize with those women, with those people having to live in that kind of a society. I do. I don't agree with Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis and the way that they treat everyone else because they don't believe what those terrorists believe. But I don't fault the people. They have been silenced. They have been told to keep their heads down and be silent. My concern is we're getting told the same thing here in the United States. Keep your head down, stay silent. We will make things inconvenient for you. You will be called names. You will be ostracized. You will be threatened. Your livelihood will be taken away if you don't stay silent. That's my problem. Because I'm not going to stay silent. Because I don't want to wind up like the people of Gaza, like the people in Lebanon, like the people in Yemen, like the people in Iran. I don't want to be subjugated. I don't want to have my voice suppressed and eliminated. I don't want to be the next target of some secret squad of terrorists going around trying to kill someone to silence them. I don't want that. And the only way we combat that is to have these conversations, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it means your political preference isn't going to get the best look. If this were Republicans, I'd be saying it about them. If there's a Republican who is leaking information to Iran, I want that person to be labeled as the traitor that they are and suffer to the highest consequence of the law. If it's a Republican, if it's a Democrat, if it's third party, I don't care who it is. I believe the weak link is John Kerry because he's been the weak link in the past, and he has access and he has opportunity because the Biden administration is abysmal. It is inefficient and ineffective. So yeah, I think it could be John Kerry, and I think people should be trying to find out what John Kerry's been doing. But if it were anyone else, Republican or otherwise, I will absolutely have the same response. That person is a danger to the United States and to international stability and peace. They are a traitor, and they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Period. I don't care who they are. I don't care what their politics is. I just happen to understand that since it is happening in this administration, since it is happening with these individuals in power, this is why I think the weak link seems to be John Kerry, or at least he's one of the weak links that we can point to directly. Then again, it could also be whoever it is that is running United States international policy 18 hours a day when Joe Biden isn't coherent, and especially since Kamala Harris is busy campaigning, she's not worried about it. So Grace says, Kerry is the common denominator to a lot of international debacles and tragedies. He is. Thus is why I remind people that back in April of 2021, he was called out for what he was doing under the Obama administration. And it took us 4 years to find out that John Kerry was revealing secret information to our enemy, Iran, a nation that wants to kill us. And he did it so that Iran would sign on the dotted line for the Iran nuclear deal, so that Iran would get over $100 million, actually I believe it was $100 billion, to fund global terrorism. Something that John Kerry himself said in January of 2016 on CNBC, that the United States, by signing the Iran nuclear deal, became complicit and helped to fund global terrorism. Yeah, I got a problem with John Kerry. I got a big problem with John Kerry because I remember the facts. That's why I do this. We do long-form political commentary. We remember how we got to this point. We remember the policies that have endangered and weakened the world. We remember the consequences, the chain of consequences, and how they fell apart. Joe Biden running away in Afghanistan directly led to Putin entering into the Ukraine. And in witnessing the worst policies ever by the Biden-Harris administration on dealing with both Afghanistan and also the Ukraine, then Iran decided to amp up Hezbollah and the Houthis and Hamas, and they took the money that the Biden-Harris administration started giving to the Houthis and to Hezbollah and to Hamas. Money, because in the first 24 hours of Joe Biden being in the White House, he signed executive orders reversing everything that Trump did, which meant that the Houthis, who were considered terrorists under the Trump administration, suddenly became just an organization, and they got $100 million from the Biden-Harris administration. And Kamala Harris was more than happy to allow that to happen, and they used that money to buy drones and missiles from Iran. The amount of international aid and funding going into Gaza and into Lebanon increased under the Biden-Harris administration, and they used that money to buy missiles, rockets, and drones that have been used to attack Israel and to capture American citizens and hold them hostage. Just like right now, there is a massive catastrophe from Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton that is still affecting a large swath of the United States southern states. That is a fact. Over $147 million has been dedicated to helping American citizens who don't have electricity, but they have electric chainsaws. Completely useless. That's the Biden-Harris administration in effect. And at the same time, the Biden-Harris administration, the same time, is giving $157 million to Lebanon. Why? Well, Lebanon, some of the southern part of Lebanon, Beirut, they got bombed. And what's that got to do with America? Why does that mean the American taxpayer has to pay to rebuild Lebanon? We didn't do it. We got nothing to do with that. Hezbollah, which is in southern Lebanon, is attacking Israel. That's got nothing. America isn't fighting that fight. Why are we paying for it? Why? Why are we paying for Lebanon, for Hezbollah, who are going to take the money and they're not going to rebuild? They're going to buy more rockets and drones from Iran to attack Israel and possibly the United States. These are questions. You may disagree. You may not like it. And I think that's more likely. There are people who are vote blue no matter who. There are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats and progressives. There are individuals who are anti-war, and they will say, well, I don't like what you're saying, Mike, but I'm not wrong. You don't have to like this for it to be true, for it to be a factor that is affecting the stability and peace in the world. And you can vote on it, because Kamala is going to allow this to continue to happen. It's amazing to me, folks. And again, we know John Kerry. You're going to find out the truth 2 years from now, just like we did with John Kerry. It took us 4 years to find out about that. It took us 3 years to find out that Russia collusion didn't exist, and the Steele dossier was something that was created by Democrats so that they could win an election in 2016. Oh, the Ukraine phone call, completely made up. No truth to it whatsoever. Took us a year to find that out. The Hunter Biden laptop that people said would have affected the way they voted in 2020, 2.5 years to find out about that. Do you notice what we keep seeing? A delay that would otherwise affect the way people vote and who would be in power. Over and over again, and it's always going only one way. Empowering the left, the further left, the progressives, the Democrats, further and further left, empowering them, giving them elected offices they would not otherwise be able to gain, and demonizing everyone else. If you, at this point in America, if you happen to be an American, if you're a libertarian, if you're Green Party, if you're an independent, if you're on the right, if you're MAGA, everybody in that group, you're all considered right, if not alt-right, and evil. Listen to what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, listen to what the left are saying. If you aren't always continuously moving to the left, you are the problem for the world. Look at what they did to Anna Kasparian. She's part of the Young Turks. We're talking about far left. All she did is stop moving left. She said the current progressive policies don't make sense to her. They're not working. She stopped continuing to move left. She stopped of spouting the approved message. And the left said, that makes you alt-right, you're evil, you're demonic. That's what they have said. Everyone who has any question, you're the problem. Not them. No, they're perfect as long as you obey. I'm telling you, folks, this is what's on the table for the election. It's very upsetting. It's very, very upsetting. I mean, think about it. Let me show you. Think about what's going on here. We've got Lizzo. Now, I do not profess to say that I know anything about Lizzo. I know she's a singer. I know she's a fat black woman. These are the truths. You can say she's a big woman, she's round, spherical. I don't care. You know what? I'm an older generation. She's fat. Okay? We called fat people fat back in my day. And she's fat. That doesn't mean she's ugly, doesn't mean she's stupid, doesn't make her any kind of good, bad, or indifferent. She's just fat. And she's a singer. Doesn't mean she's not talented. Okay. That's who she is. And she loves to be all about her body positivity, which I think is a stupid idea. And she loves being Democrat. Loves it. And she tells you, you have to be Democrat too. And in fact, we know that she went, and this is an entertainer, and the entertainer is very happy to tell you that you have to vote Democrat, especially if you're black. If you're black, if you're a black man, you're a black woman, you have to vote for Kamala Harris. You have to vote for Democrats. Because, and I want to quote this. Where is it? And I'm going to quote this exactly what she said. She said, quote, the whole country is going to be like, you want to know the truth? It'll be like Detroit. Our whole country will end up like Detroit. It's one of the murder capitals of the world. I'm being serious here. It's an impoverished city. It is destitute. It looks like a war zone. There is crime and gangs beyond belief. People died there. The only place that people are dying more often, more quickly than Detroit is Chicago. And she wants the rest of the country to be just like that. Poor, impoverished, destitute, gangs controlling huge swaths, constant violence. Not just black on black violence, but violence against everyone. Every level of violence you can think of. And she wants that for the rest of the nation. She thinks, and this is why Lizzo is an entertainer and not an elected official. She thinks that was a positive statement. She thinks that when you hear that your community in Wichita, Kansas, your community in Iowa, your community in, New York or in Texas, wherever you are in America, that having your community turn into Detroit is a positive. She thinks you're going to look at that and go, yeah, I want to have the gang violence. I want to see more black on black crime. I want to see more drugs and drug users and drug addicts, people dying from overdoses. I want to see more violent crime against women, against everyone. Yeah, that's what you want. You want more poverty, more impoverished citizens. You want to see more infrastructure falling apart. You want more hopeless kids. That's what you want because that's what Detroit is. Look, I'm not saying that Detroit is filled with bad people. There are a definite portion of the people in Detroit are bad people. That's why they have gangs and violence and drug use. There is a problem there. It is absolutely clear. And they have corruption, a lot of corruption in their elected officials, allowing for this crime and this decrepitude, for the infrastructure to fall apart. That is corruption. By the way, guess who's in charge of Detroit? Democrats. Who's been in charge of Detroit for the last 100 years? Democrats. So the corruption is Democrat corruption. It's Democrat policies that have failed the people. The social experiments failed, and the government is corrupt. That's Democrats. And she wants you to share in that corruption, that inefficiency, that ineffectiveness, that violence. She thinks you want that for your home and your community. She thinks this is a positive. She thinks this will get voters, especially black voters, black men and black women, to vote for Kamala Harris, because they're going to turn your home into a hellhole. I'm sorry, no, I don't think that's correct. But this is the mindset that they have out here. And again, I'm quoting her exact words. I mean the whole country is going to be like, you want to know the truth, it'll be like Detroit. Our whole country will end up being like Detroit. Who in the hell wants their country to be like Detroit? Detroit has 8.8% unemployment, double the national unemployment rate. Industry falling apart there. Crime higher than the national average. I mean, someone will say, well, Mike, you can't say that. Okay, let me prove it to you, okay? I'm searching this live in front of you guys so you can see it. And this is the Detroit crime rate. Let me move chat for a second here. So I just looked it up, Detroit crime rate. You saw me type it in. And the answer from, let's go with Google's AI. Let's look at the algorithm that's meant to help Democrats. And it says Detroit's crime rate is high compared to other cities of similar size. It's consistently ranked among the top 100, actually in the top 20, most dangerous cities in the United States. Wow. Doesn't that make you feel good? Homicides. In 2023, Detroit had 252 homicides. Now, the good news, that's an 18% decrease from 2022. Well, maybe it's not. Remember, we came out 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we showed you the FBI admitted that all of their crime numbers were wrong for 2022. They were all higher, which means the numbers that may not have been adjusted by Google at this moment are higher. There was more crime in all of America and in Detroit than what was initially told to you. So, no, homicides didn't decrease 18% since 2022. But these are the numbers. 2017, there were 267 murders in Detroit, down from 303 in 2016. Remember, 232 last year. 232 last year. 20 shocking Detroit crime rate statistics and trends. I'm trying to find, here we go, city data. This is a reasonably credible site. And crime rate in Detroit, Michigan. Note, higher means more crime. Detroit, 847 in overall crime. That's their rating, which is 3.4 times higher than the U.S. average. Crime in Detroit is 3.4 times higher than the U.S. average. Wow. Think about that. 3.4. And Lizzo says, don't you want that for your home? Go and hire Kamala Harris. Go vote for Kamala Harris so you can have crime that is 3.4 times higher than whatever it is right now. That sounds great. Let's see. Murders. Look at these numbers. 2022, 308. 2021, 306. 2020, 321. 2019, 281. 261, 268. This is the number of murders per 100,000 people. This is ridiculous. This is way higher than the national average. The number of rapes, 712 in 2022. That's 113.6 per 100,000 people. That is a ridiculously high number, but it is down from 2021 when it was 828. Let's see, burglaries. In 2022, 4,829. 2021, 4,155. This is ridiculous. Mind you, it is down from 2029, this is Obama, where it was at 19,000. By the end of the Obama administration, that went down to 14,000. So they went from, wrong line. From 19,000 burglaries to 8,264 under Obama. Trump took it from 8,264. They did start increasing back up, no doubt. And they've been staying steady so far. Let's see. Arson, 440. That's ridiculous. Look at this is insane. Violent crime in 2022. Again, this is coming from citydata.com. These are their numbers. They're not partisan. They're not political. This is to help you figure out if you want to move to or from a place, to learn data about this. 3,427 registered sex offenders living in Detroit as of October 20th, 2024. The ratio of all residents to sex offenders is 169. That is huge. Violent crime rate, 1,144.5 versus the United States average of 219.8. That is over 5 times higher. That's the violent crime rate. That's just ridiculous. Property crime rate in 2022, 490.2 versus 166 for the rest of the nation. Again, that's like 5 times more. It's about 4.5 to be exact on that one. That's ridiculous. This is what Lizzo wants you to have. This is what Lizzo thinks you want to have in your community. This is insane. But this is what the Democrats are pushing out there, and you're supposed to say yes. Because if you don't agree with Lizzo, well, then you must be racist, you must be sexist. You're some evil MAGA right-wing alt demon if you don't want your city to be just like Detroit. The Democrats are telling you right up front. They're telling you they're going to take away your First Amendment. They're going to take away your Second Amendment. We've heard Kamala Harris say it on the campaign trail. She said, I'm going to go into your locked home and take your firearm. She said, I'm a gun owner, but I'm going to take your Second Amendment rights. I'm going to take your guns. Because, the Second Amendment says she doesn't have a right to do that. Shall not be infringed. But she doesn't care. Because she wants you to live in Detroit. Mind you, Kamala Harris doesn't live in Detroit. I guarantee you, Lizzo doesn't live in the ghetto. She doesn't live in a high crime area. I guarantee you, Lizzo has armed guards protecting her and her property. But you'll just deal with it. You'll just live with it. Keep your head down. Don't say anything. Just obey. That's what this election is about. That's what we are seeing. I'm not making it up. That's what's there. They're telling you this. How about this? Right now, the Obama administration, the DOJ under Merrick Garland, for the Biden-Harris administration, the DOJ is suing Virginia for removing illegal aliens from their voter rolls, which is what the DOJ made them do. The DOJ came up with regulations for Virginia and told Virginia that they had to clear their voter rolls and get rid of all the non-voters, and in particular the non-citizens, off their voter rolls. That came from the Department of Justice itself. And now Virginia did what the Department of Justice told them to do. They removed illegal aliens from the voting rolls. And we know, just like in Oregon, just like we have seen across this country, we know for a fact illegal aliens have been registered to vote in Oregon, in California, in New York, across this country. They are being registered to vote, and they are voting in elections. We have seen that. In the hundreds, we have seen that. Now, You may say, well, Mike, hundreds isn't enough to change an election. It is to change a congressional race. It is to change a mayoral race. It is enough to change local elections. And by the way, that's just the ones that we have accidentally found out about. We don't know how many illegal aliens have been registered in New York State. There is no audit being done. We don't know how many are have been registered in California. There is no audit being done. We accidentally found out from the DMV in Oregon about their hundreds of illegal aliens that have been registered to vote. And they told us there's plenty more where that came from, but they won't tell us what the actual number is because they don't even know what it is because they haven't done an audit. They just know it's bigger than the number that they did tell us about. And I showed you the articles from Oregon State. I've shown you the articles where the DOJ is arresting illegal aliens for voting in multiple presidential elections, where we have seen courts convict illegal aliens of voting in local races and federal races for members of Congress. We know it is happening. We just don't know how much it is happening, because the news media will tell us that 2 years from now. In 2 years, we'll tell you how badly this system is running right now because illegal aliens are in there. But even though we have this evidence from this year telling us that these things are happening, and Merrick Garland, the Democrats, the Biden administration is fighting to keep those illegal aliens on the voting roll, to let those illegal aliens vote. Now, Governor Youngkin issued a statement on October 11th, and he says, and I quote, "With less than 30 days until the election, the Biden-Harris Department of Justice is filing an unprecedented lawsuit against the governor and the state of Virginia for appropriately enforcing a 2006 law signed by Democrat Tim Kaine that requires Virginia to remove non-citizens from the voter rolls. Not American citizens, not anyone who legally can vote, illegal aliens. This is from the DOJ, and this was pushed in 2006, and Democrat Governor Tim Kaine actually put this into law, put this into effect. They're doing what they were required to do, and they're being sued. A process that starts with someone declaring themselves a non-citizen and then registering to vote. Virginians and Americans will see this for exactly what it is: a desperate attempt to attack the legitimacy of elections in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the very crucible of American democracy. With the support of our Attorney General, we will defend these common sense steps that we are legally required to take with every resource available to us. Virginia's election will be secure and fair, and I will not stand idly by as this politically motivated action tries to interfere with our elections. Virginia is complying with the law. They are following the law. You know, the same thing that Kamala Harris said to Bret Baier when it comes to funding transgenders getting sex change operations in prison. She's going to follow the law. Well, guess what? If that was good enough for her, why is it not good enough for the state of Virginia that they're following the law? He didn't say, oh, well, I had a choice. This is what the law says it has to be. This is what Democrats made the law. He's following the Democrat-approved law, and he's in trouble because Democrats now want the illegal aliens to still be able to vote. You can't make this stuff up, folks. But you're not supposed to talk about this. You're not supposed to think about it. You're going to hear, oh, but they're taking away the voters in 90 days. Does it matter? There's less than 90 days. You're not letting, if you were supposed to get rid of all those illegal aliens 3 months ago. How dare you do it now before they can vote? It's too late. You have to let the illegal aliens vote. Why? Well, it's because it's really close to the election. So, why is that? I mean, think about the logic here. It's right here in front of you in black and white. They're suing Virginia because they're removing illegal aliens less than 90 days before the election. So if this happened to be May, they wouldn't be complaining. If this was June, they wouldn't be complaining. But because it's October and Virginia is following the law and they are removing illegal aliens from the voting rolls. They're stopping illegal aliens from voting like they've done in Oregon, like they've done in New York State, like they've done in California and other states across this country. Because they are stopping this with 2 weeks before the election, then the Department of Justice is suing them. Does that make sense to you? People who aren't supposed to vote, who are not allowed by law to vote. It is a crime to vote in the election. And the Department of Justice is saying, no, you can't stop them. Let them vote. Let them commit the crime because they might vote Democrat. Because I guarantee you, illegal aliens aren't voting conservative. They're not voting for Donald Trump. They're not voting for Republicans because conservatives, Donald Trump, and Republicans are all saying, get out of my country. All of them are saying, why are we spending money? Why do we have these open borders? Why are we allowing them to destroy our infrastructure? Go back to your country. Go to the back of the line. Wait your turn. Come into America legally. That's what Republicans and conservatives and Donald Trump are saying. That's what the majority of American people are saying. Remember, I showed it to you earlier. The American people, over a third of Americans agree with this. They believe in this, that you wait your turn to come into America. There is no such thing as an open border policy. We have been talking throughout this entire summer. Europe is getting rid of open borders. Individual countries and the EU. We've seen this in France, in Germany, in Sweden, in Italy, in Norway. They have all said they have to close their borders. The open border policy doesn't work. It is a problem. It does not help anyone, especially those nations. We've seen that in the United Kingdom, that they've been talking and been trying to close their border. And when they do close their borders, if the United States doesn't bring back Remain in Mexico, if the United States doesn't enforce our borders, they're all coming to here. All of those illegal aliens that were trying to get into Germany, they're going to come to America. The ones that were trying to get into Italy, the ones that were trying to get into Sweden, the ones that were trying to get into France and the UK, they're all going to come to America because Kamala Harris believes in an open border, because Democrats and progressives believe in open borders. So they're going to come here. And we already see New York State is going broke trying to pay $5 billion a year to pay for illegal aliens. Boston, Chicago, Baltimore, LA are going broke. They're breaking their cities, trying to take care of 200,000 illegal aliens that they've gotten. 200,000. There are 8 million that have entered the United States under the Biden administration. 8 million. We're seeing the problems in Arizona. We're seeing it in Texas, Nevada. We're seeing it in California. We're seeing it. And imagine if there is a Harris administration, there will be another wave of these illegal aliens coming back into the United States. They'll be running from Europe into the United States. And the DOJ, Merrick Garland, the Democrats are saying, let them vote. Because they're going to vote Democrat. They're going to vote for the people who kept the border open. They're going to vote for the people who put them in a 3-star hotel. The people who gave them credit cards so they can go out and buy food with your tax money. Illegal aliens are getting $60,000 worth of housing a year. $13,000 to just pay for food for their lunch. That's their lunch money. $13,000 a year. That's $73,000 per illegal alien. Not per family, not per household. That's for each and every illegal alien. $73,000. That's more than double what the average American worker makes. The average American worker makes about $33,000 a year. We're spending $73,000 per illegal alien. That's your tax money. And they're saying, bring in more. Let them vote because they're going to vote Democrat. And you are not supposed to talk about it. You are supposed to be perfectly happy. You are supposed to be cheering it on and saying, let's make your neighborhood look just like Detroit. Let your neighborhood be just like Detroit. Let illegal aliens who have never been vetted, let them come in and be members of ISIS from Tajikistan planning to blow up parts of America. Let them be members of Hezbollah trying to get into New York State and New York City to blow up New York City. Let's have the open border. No vetting whatsoever. Let them in. Let them vote because American citizens are second. I know Kamala said the priority is Americans, but look at what their priority is. They're not fighting to get illegal aliens off of the voter rolls. They're fighting to keep them on. Which one seems like a priority to you? I'm serious here, folks. I'm going to get to the comments in 1 second, but what does it seem like a priority to you? To keep the voters, to keep illegal aliens voting, or to get them off the voter rolls? Which one is the priority? Which one do you think they're trying to help? American citizens or illegal aliens? Let me see here. So the comment. Grace says, there is a fight to keep Virginia blue. Yeah, I believe it. The state went too conservative. When you have a Marine as a lieutenant governor and she is a conservative, the left gets nervous. I work part-time at a thrift store that serves the poor in my community. We now almost entirely serve people who can't speak English. Look, I'm not blaming these people for being poor. I'm not blaming these people for having countries that are all messed up hellholes. I understand. I don't begrudge them for wanting to live a better life. Do so legally. That's the thing. Do it legally. I want them vetted. I want to know, are you a member of ISIS or Al-Qaeda? Are you a member of Hezbollah or Hamas or the Houthis? I want to know who you are coming into this country. Are you a plumber? Are you an electrician? Are you a doctor? Do you wash dishes for a living? Let me know so you can be better integrated into America. You want a better life for you and your family? Fantastic. But I don't want to pay for it. That's not my obligation. I don't know your family. I have my own family to take care of. I have my own bills to take care of. Hell, they want me to pay for some kid to go to college and learn how to basket weave or be a specialist in lesbian dance theory. They want me to pay for that. I don't have time or the money to pay for some illegal alien to go and live in a hotel. I don't have that kind of money. No American citizen has that kind of money. So, you know what? Do me a favor, get online, get vetted, and wait. That's not asking for too much. It's not. But they want you to feel like it is. They want you to feel like someone who tells you the truth, that is being honest with you. Oh, well, that's just cruel. You're just being a racist. How's it racist? I didn't mention any country, did I? Oh, there's something. I never mentioned the color of skin of any of the illegal aliens I'm talking about. I didn't say what country they came from. I don't care. I don't care what country they come from. I never asked about their sex or their sexual preference. You can't call me an ist and a phobe when I'm not talking about something that's ist or phobe. I'm not talking about those categories, those checklists. I'm talking about the law. But we assumed. The Democrats assume that you must be racist or sexist or ist or phobe because it fits their narrative. Except it's got nothing to do with the argument itself, which is follow the law. Give us the chance to help these people who want to be helped. America's a giving country. The American citizen, average American citizen, donates more than countries donate. Citizens in America donate to the world more food and money and help than almost any other country in the world. Think about that. The only country that normally outgives than the United States citizens is the United States government. We're always trying to help people. We're always uplifting people. We have been uplifting people for well over 100 years. As much as the left wants to demonize America and capitalism for it, we have been uplifting the world. And we've been very successful at it. We've been very giving. And yet, in doing all of that, it is never enough for the left because they have to be in control. It has to be what they want to do. They have to approve for it to be okay. Otherwise, well, you're just evil. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Grace goes on to say, she sees all nationalities where she works. They look destitute. They have kids that may or may not be theirs. Immigrants didn't used to steal from us where I work. Now they do. Well, it's a different amount of respect. Think about it. We're not getting the best illegal aliens. We're getting the dregs. To be fair, to be honest, we're getting the gangs. We're getting the criminals. We're getting the people who don't follow the law, who have been taught not to follow the law. Now, that doesn't mean every single illegal alien. It doesn't. But it does mean a lot of them. More of them than has been the norm in the past. The people who don't follow the law. The people who don't want to abide by the rules. They came here and they said, oh, we can break law after law after law and get a reward. Break into the country, you get to stay in a hotel. Go and attack police officers. Oh, and you get to walk out of the prison and you get a credit card to go buy food. Somebody is calling you out and saying, hey, you gang members, you're taking over apartment buildings, and those people get to be told that they are racist and they have to shut up. Why are the criminals coming? Because there's no one holding them accountable. Because they can be criminal and be successful. Because no one's enforcing the law. That's why they're getting worse. Because it's better for them. The good people that came before them in larger numbers, they're being drowned out by the criminals who are coming en masse because there's nothing to stop them. If you try to stop them, you're the bad guy. And when they show up, they get rewarded and rewarded and rewarded, regardless of the crime that they commit. That's the truth. I understand there are people who are on the left who are watching this and they're like, I'm so pissed off. Mike, I'm so angry with you because you're saying this. but it's true. We have the empirical numbers. We have the data from state after state throughout the entire country. We know that this is happening. It is true. It is empirical. You don't have to like it. I didn't say you should rejoice about this. I didn't say it's a party and aren't we happy about it. That's not what I'm saying. But I am telling you the truth. And the only way we fix the problem is first by admitting what the problem is, admitting what is the core problems here. The core problems is we're rewarding criminality. Therefore, we're getting more criminality. And we can expect that if we continue to reward criminality and invite criminality, that we're going to get more criminals. Is that crazy to say? I think not. Grace says, I will help anyone. I just don't want to be invaded by anyone of any color. They are beginning to live in the woods around my subdivision, the illegals. Yes, well, think about it. If you have been living in some of these countries, they live in shacks. I mean, literal cardboard shacks, just a couple of layers of cardboard put together, and that's what they live on. And you have the chance to live, you can go out to the woods of America, chop down a tree and actually make a house. You can actually go into an abandoned building and you can live in that abandoned building. You can go into somebody's property and you can live in their garage. That's a hell of a step up from where you've been. They're going to do that en masse. Why? Because there's no penalty for that. They're not being punished for that. They're being told, yeah, go ahead. Because if anyone says you can't go and move into someone's garage, if you move into someone's house and you've been there for 30 days, oh, well, the law says you have to stay. You can't kick them out. What? Then they're going to call up their buddy, they're going to call their cousin, their brother, their sister, their friend, and say, you better go and get yourself into a house somewhere, move into someone's garage, break into a house and just hang out there if it's been abandoned or they're on vacation, and turn it into your home because they won't kick you out. That is rewarding criminality. That is encouraging criminality. And that's why we get more criminals, more and more. They have less and less respect for the law because there is no law not applied to them. It is only applied to other people, other American citizens who dare complain. And why are the Democrats doing this? The root cause of all of this, because they want votes. Again, Kamala Harris told you, and many Democrats have told you, but Kamala Harris told you when she was doing interviews with ABC News in Philadelphia, we covered her interview, and she said in that 15-minute interview that this is part of a path to citizenship. It's exactly what Joe Biden was trying to pass immediately after he took power. Democrats were trying to pass a path to citizenship, to take all these millions of illegal aliens and to turn them into American citizens who are dependent on the Democratic Party. That's a power grab. That's authoritarian. All right. If you noticed, folks, that was my puppy just now. And he just jumped up at me, which means he wants me to take him for a walk. Not a problem. So we're going to take a quick break for a moment. And when I come back, we're going to go over the education system. Believe it or not, I have evidence of politics, partisan politics being injected into middle school students across America. I actually have their national teachers training program that is directly and definitively saying, teach kids partisan politics. They're not being taught to read and write. They're being taught to obey partisan politics. I have the evidence, and I am going to share it with you when we get back. But we're going to take a quick break before that. So this is going to be me. What is this? I think this is me covering an event. And we're going to let that play, and then we'll come back. There we go.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm happy to be here with you today, though I'm going to be speaking about something that is quite disturbing. It's an issue that's been affecting America for decades, and most recently has become escalated in our news, in our entertainment, in our politics. The racial divisions in America. The claim of institutional racism. And I want to explain what happened on December 7th at a New York State college, a public college, where students were trained on becoming racist, in my opinion, and were indoctrinated into a progressive ideology. This is an event that took place at in the southern tier of New York, and something that I was aware of and I opposed for many months. I'm going to go into some detail here, in great detail, to make sure that you understand exactly what is happening in our colleges, what is being taught to our students, and what is going to be affecting our communities. You may disagree with some of the conclusions that I have, but we want you to see this in full context to understand and to make your own decisions. First, let me mention that if this is the first time that you're seeing our channel, I thank you for joining us on this important topic. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary, and every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We reach out on all the social media, in YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, DLive, everywhere that the internet overlords will allow, and sometimes they don't, to speak to you about the issues that affect all of us from anywhere in the world. Because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in your right to speak. It is inalienable. And we believe that for everyone, whether or not your government agrees, whether or not the internet overlords agree, we believe in your right to speak up about the issues that affect us all, like this one today. And we hope that every Sunday you'll join us at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to take part in this live stream and to share your thoughts as well. Let's get into this. And this is an emotional issue. It's been a very difficult episode to go and bring to you because it's very personal. And I think there needs to be some background so you can understand the full context. I'm 53 years old. I remember the 1970s and the racism that existed at that time. And I've spoken about it on this channel from time to time. I remember the riots, the Rodney King riots in LA, which I was present for. I've lived overseas in Moscow, and I've explained some of the experiences I've had there. In 53 years living across the United States, there's been a lot of events, and I will tell you that I have experienced racism firsthand. And I've also experienced the racism that progressives have been pushing in the last decade. They are very different things, and they have very different outcomes. Given that, I also want you to be aware that this year, 2021, I joined the SUNY Broome Civic Engagement Board. SUNY Broome is a New York State college located in the southern tier of New York in Broome County. And the Civic Engagement Board is an organization, a group of individuals, both some faculty members of the university as well as private citizens like myself, that seek to encourage the public to be involved in their politics and their communities. It is nonpartisan, and its goal is only to encourage people to be involved, to make whatever decisions they wish, and to make the most informed decision they can. When I joined this board, I first became aware in May of an event that was being planned. The preparations for the event had started before I joined the board, before April of 2021. That event took place today, December 7th, the same day as when America was remembering the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the event that actually caused the United States to join World War II. That is not lost on me. This event, after 8 months, more than 8 months of planning, came about. Now, before it came to the public, as a member of the board, I was aware of this event. I was aware of the materials and the subject matter. I opposed it. I denounced the event, and I, again, denounce what you're going to see and what was done. I do not agree, and I have disagreed strongly. Members of the Civic Engagement Board are aware of this. This is not a denouncement of the Civic Engagement Board. It is not a denouncement of any of the members of the Civic Engagement Board. But it is a denouncement of the material and its impact and what I believe is the increase of racism that is a direct result of this presentation. And I will explain in detail in just a moment. Again, please follow with me here. There's a lot to this. We need to give it the respect to understand the full context so that we can have a clear understanding. And in doing that, I want to understand, in part, what is it we're talking about? Because we hear in America constantly that we must be talking about institutional racism. We must confront and defeat institutional racism. It is assumed by many of progressives that this is an inherent fact. It is inescapable. Whether it's the applications of critical race theory or its intersectionality, gender identity politics, there are many words for this. It effectively comes down to the same thing. And we're told that this is about social justice. But what does that mean? To understand anything else, we must first take a moment to understand what are we talking about. Justice is defined by Merriam-Webster as the process or result of using laws to fairly judge and punish crimes and criminals. Well, that's an interesting term. That's the more common definition. The full definition is the maintenance or administration of what is just, especially by the impartial adjustment of conflicting claims or the assignment of merited rewards or punishments. It is about fairness. It is about equality. It is about the impartial dispensation of the law to all those who are involved. And in fact, it is an aspect of what is just. And what does that mean? Just, also defined by the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is having a basis in or conforming to fact or reason. In other words, being reasonable. Conforming to a standard of correctness. Proper. Acting or being in conformity with what is morally upright or good. Righteous. Being what is merited. Deserved. Legally correct. Lawful. Justice is reasonable, proper, righteous, deserved, and lawful. That's what being just is. And justice is the maintenance and application of being just in all of its aspects. Social justice, though, is not that. It is more than just an adjective describing justice. Justice by itself needs no descriptor. Justice is universal, and it is not defined by someone's color of skin or their race or gender or sexual preference. It has nothing to do with that. But social justice is defined in terms of race. It is defined in terms of categories. In fact, it is required that individuals no longer exist and that any individual is only a part of a category. It is based on categories of people, not individuals. And San Diego Foundation defines the many definitions. There are many definitions of social justice. Those Those different definitions vary depending on the group that you're looking at. One of the definitions I want to focus on is social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. Social workers aim to open the doors of access and opportunity for everyone, particularly those in greatest need. It's an interesting definition from the National Association of Social Workers. Social justice is the view, so it's an understanding, it's an impression, it is subjective, not objective. Justice is objective. There is no subjectivity to that. There is no impression. It is the maintenance of what is just. It is the education of law. Being just is somewhat subjective, but there are objective criteria as well, because we have to conform to fact and reason. Facts are objective. The law is objective. But again, social justice is not. But that's only one definition of social justice. Social justice encompasses economic justice. So you're defining it with another word that is almost the same. Economic justice. Well, again, that's a subjective subcategory which doesn't truly define the term we're looking at. Social justice is the virtue which guides us in creating those organized human interactions we call institutions. That's an odd wording and doesn't really make sense. In turn, social institutions, when justly organized, provide us with access to what is good for the person, both individually and in our association with others. Social justice also imposes on each of us a personal responsibility to work with others to design and continually perfect our institutions as tools for personal and social development. So it's a goal. Social justice is a goal. It is a cause. It is a political cause. It is inherent in what it's speaking about. It has requirements. It is something that you are obligated to do. It is an action you must take. And you are obligated to do so by other individuals. And this is about the collective. It isn't about you individually. Again, social justice also imposes on each of us a personal responsibility to work with others. You must interact with individuals, and you must do so in the prescribed mannerism that someone who created social justice, or this meaning of social justice, prefers. So your individuality, your choice does not exist. This is what we're speaking about. And this is all in the goal of equity, which is fairness or justice in the way people are treated. Fairness. This is about fairness. But here's the thing. Who's determining what is fair? Just like in determining who's saying what is socially just. Who is determining the responsibility, the manner in which we're supposed to be obligated to work with each other? And to what outcome? What is the net end of this goal? What is the cause? These are things that are not understood and they're not explained. And this is important. This is critically important. And I'm taking time to make sure we understand this, that social justice at its root is about politics. It's about power. It's about making individuals act in a manner that is approved by a smaller elite group of individuals. That is inescapable. Justice is objective. Social justice is subjective. And it is controlled by a small group of people who determine what it means on a case-by-case basis. That's why there are so many different definitions for it and what its cause is and what is its end goal. So with that said, I want to again come back to what happened at SUNY Broome today. And this is not unusual for what we're seeing in colleges across this nation. It is not a unique event. So we're going to look at the social justice, the aspect of social justice, which is the institutional racism. The event starts with an understanding that institutional racism exists. It is a reality that is inescapable. And if you disagree with that fundamentally, then everything else falls apart. Let me also mention before we start going through what actually happened, I want to also make it very clear. One of the things I objected about this event is the fact that there is no other voice. There is no one else speaking about this event. There is only the one singular point of view. There is no opposing point of view presented. There is no one speaking in this event to say, but I disagree, or I have a different point of view. And that's very important to understand as we go through this. Without further delay, though, let me start us off and show you the event itself.
Such a wonderful turnout. We are all really, really excited. So thank you for coming. My name is Carla Mahalik, and I'm doing the introduction today and welcoming you all and telling you what a deliberation is in case you showed up today not having any clue what you're here for.
Let me address something about why are people here? Why did they come to this event? Who came to this event? To give full context, there were approximately 30 people in the room as it started. That room was comprised of 75% of individuals that appeared to be white. There were 25% of the people in the room that appeared to be people of color. One individual was apparently Asian, and there were a couple of people who were perhaps Arabic or Hispanic, with the remaining group looking to be black. So that's the breakdown of the room. The room is comprised of students. This is a test run, as you will hear attested in the video. And this test run was presented to students who were given extra credit for taking place. I can tell you that the students that I interacted with, to each and every one of them, mentioned that they were here because of the extra credit they would receive in various classes at SUNY Broome. That they were not here of their own volition, but that they were brought to be able to get credit. So they were bribed, and that's how they got the students into the event, apparently. Let's continue.
But your willingness to be here is all that matters. And then we will start deliberating, but I thought we'd take a 5-minute introduction just to get us all on the same plane, so to speak. And I want to introduce the people that helped make today happen, and that would be Professor Jesse Warren, who has been working on this since the summer, so we want to thank him, and Professor Scott Corley, who wrote this deliberation.
Let me stop again to let you understand some of the individuals that are involved in this process. Again, we're not picking on any individual. We're not attacking the professors for making the presentation. We want to understand what is being presented to these students who were bribed to be at this event. Professor Scott Corley is mentioned. Professor Scott Corley is a critical race theory progressive activist. He has spoken about this. He has spoken in depth about this. Dr. Scott Corley is a lecturer in philosophy and a director of the Global Encounters program at Mount St. Mary's University in Maryland. He has spoken extensively on critical race theory. And he is a supporter of critical race theory. And we believe, and I think it's well defined, that he is a progressive. So again, this event is about nothing more than a progressive ideology. This is about progressivism. And it is being presented by progressives to encourage progressivism without any reference to any other viewpoint that anyone could critically understand and compare. Let's go on.
And the placemat, which you'll see what I'm talking about in a few minutes, that we will use as the foundation of our discussion. And then we also have some other people here that have helped us along the way, including Professor O'Hagan, who helped bring some of you here today, and also the two Michaels who have supported our endeavors this semester, Michael Vasquez and Michael Woodward. So we're grateful for them, including some of the moderators. And we also have some other people here that have helped us along the way, including Professor O'Hagan, who helped bring some of you here today, and also the two Michaels who have supported our endeavors this semester.
Again, I am a member of the Civic Engagement Board. So there are many events that I do support and I have worked on as well. I do not support this event. I have never supported this event. I denounce this event and its subject matter. I want to be very clear about that. And I was there at this event to see what was actually going to happen, to see how the material was actually being presented. So I just want to clarify that yet again.
Michael Vasquez and Michael Woodward. So we're grateful for them, including some of the moderators who are here today. Carter Findor, Daisha, I'm sorry, I don't remember last name.
Fine, if they see a part of it.
Okay, Daisha, sorry, I knew I'd get that wrong. And also Troy Norton. They are here to help us moderate as well. So thank you to all of you for being here today. We're excited that you're all joining us. So I want to talk a little bit about deliberation, and so you have kind of an idea of what's going on, and then we're going to get right to it. And actually, before I do the PowerPoint, I forgot, I wanted to just sort of break the ice and have you all talk to each other. So the moderator at your table will introduce himself or herself, and also I'd like each of you to talk to each other and what brought you here today. So just chat with each other for a couple of minutes, introduce yourselves, the moderator at your table, introduce yourself, and what brought you here today.
So let me explain why this is important to understand. This is a technique. It is a technique meant to brainwash individuals. It's a technique used to prevent any dissension. When you have a group of individuals who don't know each other, and the first thing that you're doing with a moderator at each table is you're introducing people, you're creating a social bond amongst the people who don't have one in any other reason. This makes everyone feel like they are a unit, that they are a tribe, and that everyone is aligned in that group. It helps to prevent individuals from dissenting, because most people in public do not want to dissent. We see that in our politics on a regular basis. We see that in elections. We see this constantly in our lives. People do not want to be ostracized. They do not want to be isolated. They don't want to be the odd person out. And so in putting a group together and putting people into small groups where they are intimately now connected with each other, you have now created a bond. And it makes it harder for people in that small, more intimate group to be able to object, to be able to say that they don't agree, because they're expected to go with the consensus, to go with the flow. This is a tactic that is used, and it is used to brainwash individuals. And I want you to be very clear. So that is what this event started with. It started with an interaction to create small cells of individuals to help mitigate their ability to disagree with any other information that would be coming up later. The cell that I was in, which is approximately 9 people in each group, included individuals. I was the only black man and the only person of color at my cell, which was not uncommon for many of the cells in this event. And I was the oldest person pretty much in the room. Just to give context on that, we had several college students that were with us, as well as other individuals from the university that were at the table with me. Let us continue on this.
We're really excited you're here, and hopefully you'll have a great experience today and spread the word about deliberations, and we plan to run these again in the spring. So hopefully you'll have such an awesome experience. You'll tell all your friends about it, and they'll come running in the spring to participate.
And we'll be looking for moderators to train in the spring too. So if you have a good experience, we'd love to have you to be a moderator. That's on the sign-in sheet. If you if you want to indicate that, just say yes to the moderation thing. We'll contact you in the spring.
Great. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely need more moderators, and we do those training. We're going to run some training, so we would love it if you signed up.
So I want to be very clear. They are making a pitch to expand the cells that they have. The moderators that, as I understand, were individuals who were trained by the university to promote this progressive ideology. There is a specific training and coursework that must be taken for an individual to become labeled as a moderator, to be able to conduct these deliberations so that you can understand. I want to make sure you understand. And they are making a call to action in each of these small cells to say, please join us, which is a very cult-like kind of thing. But at the same time, I won't fault any organization for trying to recruit new members. Every organization tries to do that. We can't fault them for that, but we do want to highlight what these moderators are, how they are created. And this is something that we see very often with organizations like Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, Antifa, BLM, and other organizations. But let's go on.
So I want to talk real quickly about what is a deliberation, so you have sort of an idea of what we're hoping to do today before we just jump right into our topic. So deliberation is a form of political discourse where, and I'm just going to show it all to you and then we can kind of go over it together. So where we tackle issues that are not easily solved. Often they're called wicked problems, that there's no, I think there's feedback here, that there's no particular easy solution, right? And so we deliberate on how can we find some common ground on a particular issue. And we all approach it with our values that we bring to the table, with our perspectives. And so that's what a deliberation is.
We don't actually bring our values and our views to this. In fact, if we're looking at the terms, what is a deliberation? First of all, let's understand that a deliberation is a closed system. Outside views are not welcome in that system. This isn't a presentation that is balanced where we have, since this is a more progressive ideology, to also have the opportunity to have a less progressive viewpoint being presented to these students. This isn't about critical thinking. This is about listening and being obedient, of servitude. Look at the terms. What is a deliberation? Deliberation is a form of political discourse where people tackle issues that are not easily solved. That's fantastic. Consider difficult issues with an open mind. That's fantastic. Actively listen to different perspectives. That's fine. Think about what matters most, what they value, and what they are willing to trade off. Okay? Learn to appreciate all points of view that are important. You notice what's not being said there? To introduce differing views. That's not part of deliberation. Deliberation isn't about having an interaction and having a discourse. You'll see what I mean in just a moment.
We're not going to solve it in 90 minutes, but we're certainly going to have an open and honest conversation about that particular topic. We're going to have...
How can you have an open and honest conversation if you're not allowed to have differing points of view? If all the information you're presented and all of the data that you are presented is from a single point of view, how can you have a critical thought about it? How can you critically say this is correct or not correct? How do you make that basis if you have nothing else to compare? That's something that's important to understand about these kind of events and what is being pushed onto students. These students don't have any other data than what is being presented to them. They have no other information than what is being given to them. They have no way of understanding what is fact and what is opinion because there is no other voice. So there is nothing open about this. This is closed. This is a closed system.
Open mind when we deliberate. We're certainly going to listen to each other carefully, and we're going to appreciate each other's points of view. And we're going to actively listen to one another. So that means, of course, no cell phones out on the table, and we we look at each other and really listen to what each other has to say. You're committed to being here. This is your own free time. Fully commit to being here and fully commit to listening to what each other has to say about this very difficult but important topic. Thinking about what matters most, what one values, and then what you're willing to trade off to reach consensus, right? Because
That's important. Consensus. What will you trade off for consensus? This is a key term of deliberation. So if you have an objection, if you disagree, you have to give up your disagreement to come to a consensus. This isn't about individuality or individual thoughts. This is about a group, a category, a system that they are creating, that you are now being put into, you're being indoctrinated into. This is what is being said to the students, and the students don't realize they don't have another choice because another choice is not being presented. This is important.
in order to achieve or reach some kind of consensus on a very difficult topic, we are going to have to compromise. Something that, we can learn how to do, even if we see that our political leaders struggle with that. That's something that we, as students, can do that. And learn to appreciate that everyone's point of view is really important, and not dismiss it at a turn.
But also don't present everyone's point of view. Don't present all the information that's available. Don't give people the facts from a different point of view. Isolate people and isolate the information that they have. So that's important.
Right? That we all have something to bring to the table, and that we appreciate and recognize that everyone's point of view is valuable. And that is why deliberation is so important, and that we have more of it, and that we don't do this. And a lot of times you probably experience debates in, hold on, I want to make sure, I do this in my class all the time, students know this, I don't want to advance too fast. You've experienced debate in high school, I imagine, right? You probably all had to do a debate in high school, and you...
No, everyone doesn't do a debate in high school. Schools may have changed in the many decades since I was last in school, but no, everyone doesn't involve in a debate. Nor would I say that debates are defined in the manner in which they put it. A debate isn't always about who won. It's about the information, the exchange of ideas. You don't have to be firmly rooted in a position to have a debate. And again, it's an investigation of ideas. You can start with a position that you may or may not be sure of, and that debate is meant to gain greater knowledge and to be able to be more informed, to make a better decision. People often take sides in debates because we have understandings. That understanding may be incomplete or incorrect, but that's not a negative. See, these are being presented as negative things. Why a debate is a negative thing. Why you shouldn't be involved in debates, you should be involved in deliberations, which are closed systems. But a debate is an open system where someone can interject and involve and present facts that counter the position that is being made, that people can have a different point of view, that people are individuals and not a collective. But we are seeing that this is being presented as it was written by progressives to say, well, a debate is competitive, aggressive, and fast-paced. Again, giving a negative connotation to what a debate is, but debates aren't that. In fact, at my table, people mentioned Well, a debate is like what we see in the presidential debate. No, that isn't a debate. That's a political event. But that's not a debate. We haven't had debates in our politics in many decades. Lincoln Douglas was a debate. But what we saw in 2020 and in many years prior, that's not debating. That's just people spouting sound bites. That's what our politics are today. They're exchanges of sound bites, but not an actual debate of the issues. But they're trying to put this in a very, very negative context so that you don't have debates and you only involve yourself in deliberations so that you are in a closed system. And a closed system is also a very safe system so that no one can point out if you're wrong, because no one wants to be wrong. Everyone wants to be as right as possible. That's why we have our views. We think it's the correct view. Sometimes it's not. And that's what debate is for. But let's go on.
How do you know that it was very aggressive, very fast-paced? You had to make your point, and the goal was to win, right? Well, that's not what a deliberation is. You know, we're not taking sides. We're not going to be so stuck in our own point of view that we're not going to be listening to everyone else's point of view. So this is not a debate. We don't use that word at all. We try really hard not to use the word debate. It is not that experience at all. It is the opposite. And again, some of this is what's similar to what I just.
Again, a deliberation is a closed system. You can only use complementary terms. Well, what if you're talking about something that you oppose, something that you don't agree with? Why should I be complimentary to something that I am against or I think is wrong, whatever it may be? Evaluate actions, drawbacks, and trade-offs. Make compromise. You're meant to come to the same goal. You're going forward. A deliberation leads you to the end goal as created by the person who presents the deliberation. And you need to move towards that and step away from whatever position you may have to get closer to the position of that deliberation, of that goal that has been presented for you. Listening to one another is important, and I agree with that. Respect and consider all viewpoints, nothing different than in a debate. Work to find common ground. Again, move towards a consensus, move towards the goal of the deliberation, not understand and make your own individual voice or your own individual understanding. You are being programmed. You are being taken from wherever you may stand and being shifted to where they want to. The organizers want you to be. That is a very fundamental understanding of what is the basis of this event, which we'll be talking about racism and institutional racism. You're not supposed to oppose this. You're supposed to come to a consensus. You're going to move from wherever your position is to the position of the progressive ideology. And again, they want to phrase this in the most positive. Debates are negative, but deliberation is slower paced. It's more easy. It's nicer. The wording is very important. It is meant to give a subjective seed in your mind saying, oh, but I want to be in a deliberation because that's kinder, it's gentler, it's less harsh, it's less confrontational, it is less thinking involved. It's more of a consensus. It's more protective, but it's also less thoughtful. But that's my thoughts. Let's hear what else she has to say.
Said with the opening slide, but it's deliberations are complementary, right? We're not aggressive. We're not looking to attack one another, but to complement one another. And I don't mean like, oh, your hair looks great today, but more about we're open to one another's points of view. We're listening. We're kind to one another. We're going to evaluate the actions that are presented to us. And if Professor Warren would hold up the placemat, just hold it up for a second. We're going to be presented with some options to consider and trade-offs, and I'm going to share that with you in a minute. And we're going to think about what that means, all surrounding this topic of racial justice, excuse me.
Again, we're not dealing with the topic racial justice. This event is being started off, and the main purpose isn't to actually have the discussion yet. You have to be prepped for the discussion. You have to be put into a box so that when you have the discussion, you come out with the right outcome. This is a setup. This is an indoctrination. We have to prepare you to have the conversation. Why? Why not present your facts and let people take that and absorb it? You have to be prepared. You have to be set up. You have to be organized to be able to accept this in a manner to come to a conclusion or get closer to the conclusion that is the goal of this event. That's not very positive. That's not very free. It's not even good. But let's go on.
Again, respect and consider all viewpoints, work to find common ground in this very difficult topic, and we're not going to rush. It's not a fast-paced conversation. It's slow, it's deliberate, it's considerate.
Why do 70% of critical thinkers ditch Disney Plus? Because they found something better. In today's economy, every dollar counts. So what's worth subscribing to? Let's compare Disney Plus and No Soundbites Allowed. With Disney Plus, you're shelling out $140 a year for virtue signaling shows targeting mythical modern audiences. Plus, a theater visit could cost you $40 or more. Ouch. Now imagine a platform where fresh perspectives, insightful interviews, and engaging discussions are at your fingertips. That's No Soundbites Allowed. And the best part? It's free with an option to support only if you choose. While Disney Plus ticks off virtue signal checkboxes, No Soundbites Allowed offers real talk and sharp analysis. Perfect for those who crave depth and clarity. Why break the bank for entertainment? Subscribe to No Soundbites Allowed and enjoy meaningful content without the hefty price tag. All right, everyone, and thank you for being back with us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am back with you, your host, Michael Voss, the political dragon here in the Bronx. It is October 20th, 15 days before the 2024 election. And we've been talking about what's affecting the United States internationally, about the American hostages, talking about what's happening with Lebanon, what's happening with our money. We've been talking about a lot of issues, and there's so much more, but there's a reason why I was playing this interview from 2021 where we saw the indoctrination of college students, something that I think is a very big deal, a very big problem here in America, where we're being told by many educators, don't worry, we're not trying to indoctrinate kids. We're not trying to make them part of a partisan yes machine, turning them into objects and check boxes. They're told, no, that's not happening. And then we get to see what they are actually doing to those students, something that a lot of people don't get to see across this nation. They don't get to hear about these events. It's kind of like during the lockdowns, where suddenly parents were hearing the lesson programs that were being given to kids in kindergarten and in first grade, and suddenly going, wait a minute, why are you teaching my kid about gay sex? Why are you teaching my kid about sex at all? Forget about whether it's gay or not. Why are you teaching my kids about sex and they're in kindergarten? That's not supposed to happen. That's not necessary for them to be able to learn about the ABC 1, 2, 3, adding basic mathematics. That's not what you're supposed to do. Why are you telling my kid that they are inherently evil because of the color of their skin, and telling yet another child you're inherently a victim because of the color of your skin? That's not what teachers are supposed to do. That's not what education is. That's what indoctrination is. And here we saw at Broome County College, New York State, Central New York, a southern tier, we saw this is indoctrination. controlling every aspect to make sure that you arrive at only one conclusion. There was only one voice that could be heard. And yes, at the time, I was a member of the Broome County Civic Board, and I was against this event. I protested this event twice. I told them that I was going to be critical of this event because of the inherent racism of it, and they did it anyway. Afterwards, of course, many of the members of the board were very upset with me. There were several professors that were upset because they were embarrassed because people were able to see what they had done. And my answer to them was, if you thought I was wrong, I will give you an interview for as long as you want to correct anything you think I misunderstood. I will not edit a single word, and you can defend whatever it is you think I misunderstood. Not one took up that opportunity. Not one. They were mad at me. They sent emails to each other, but not one actually spoke up. I was on that board for over a year. Now, the reason why I showed that is so that you could see that is the kind of indoctrination we are seeing. But we're going to be going into, in this segment on the show, I'm going to show you the indoctrination. We know about what's happening with young kids. We saw that during the lockdowns, that they're trying to introduce them to sex and to sexual practices, to identities as kindergartners. And we've seen now what happens when kids get into college. And again, that indoctrination is reinforced and pushed on them even harder to come down to one specific outcome. And it's partisan, it's political, and it's mindless. But what about the kids in the middle? What about the kids who aren't in kindergarten? Or how about the kids who aren't in college? And matter of fact, that was in 2021. What's happening today in 2024? I'm going to show you evidence that the same exact thing is happening right now in schools to your child in America, no matter where you are in America. It's not just in New York. It's not just in the bluer than blue states. It's in your state, in your school right now. And I'm going to show you the evidence of that we were able to obtain. Before I do that, and I do see your comments, John. John Cordisco has joined us. He has a channel as well on YouTube, the John Cordisco's Corner. And I do advise people, check that out. Check out my friend Larry Sharp. Check out Hard Lens Media with Kit Cabello. Get a lot of different voices. Always a good thing. But before we get to that, while we were away and on break, some news did come out. Now, many people may have heard about Kamala Harris this weekend when she was at a rally and she was talking about abortion amongst other issues. And there were a couple of individuals in the crowd, very close to her, about 20, 30 yards away, that decided to say, Christ is King, Jesus is our Lord, because she was talking about abortion. And Kamala Harris went and trolled these individuals who were at her Democratic event, presumably Democratic voters, don't know, but they were there to hear her. And she said, quote, "You guys are at the wrong rally. I think you're meant to go to the smaller one down the road," being demeaning and insulting and purposefully cruel to these kids. Now, she didn't have to say all of that. She could have said, well, we're not here for religion. We're talking about politics. She could have said, you can have a different point of view than I do. She could have said, you know what, you may disagree, but maybe you'll agree on some of the other issues that are part of this election, and maybe you'll vote for me. She could have reached out to them to give them a hand up, to try and meet them halfway, to try and compromise or see somewhere where they have a mutual point of view, because they're at a Kamala Harris rally. But instead of doing that, wait a minute, where's my chat window? There it is. But instead of doing any of that, Kamala Harris instead decided to belittle them and insult them. Now, these students at Wisconsin, which is a battleground state and one that Kamala Harris might be losing. There's a better than average chance she's going to lose this, not just because of her policies, but also because of a large number of Dearborn, Michigan-like voters in Wisconsin. She may lose them because of the pro-Hamas movement. But she tells these Wisconsin voters, and what do you see out of that? The thing that I thought was very interesting is because these young men spoke up about their religious faith on an issue that is important to them at a rally, at an election, for an election, and they were pushed by elderly women. They were heckled. They were cursed. They were mocked. This is because of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris led this. Kamala Harris looked and pointed and identified them to be ridiculed and to be ostracized. And thus they were heckled, they were pushed, they were cursed, they were mocked because they had religious belief. This is what you get from a Harris-Walz administration. This is what you get from the progressive left. You get isolated, you get ostracized, you get ridiculed, you get punished for speaking up for your values, for your belief. Again, Kamala Harris has been elected many, many times. She's been at rallies many, many times, whether it's for Democrats to raise fundraising and money or whether it's because she's running for an elected office. This is not old to her. She has done this. She has had people disagree with her at events as a senator, as AG, as a candidate for the presidency, as VP. She's had this happen before. She didn't have to attack them. She didn't have to belittle them. But when she did, that gave the okay to the rest of the people at the event. Oh, these guys, they're okay to belittle. They're okay to objectify, to denounce, to harm and harass because Kamala Harris said so. What happens when you piss off Kamala Harris? What happens when you have a different view than the progressive left? What will happen to you in that environment? I thought that was very important to bring up since that is part of the 2024 election. And I think that's something that voters should be aware of. Whether or not you agree with these kids going and making their voices heard during the event, that's different. And you can rightly argue that maybe they shouldn't have spoken up, maybe they should have, but they did. Kamala Harris didn't have to belittle them. She didn't have to mock them, to troll them, to sick the mob on them. But she believes in mob mentality. She believes in obedience without question. So how dare you put your views, your strongly held views, your religious views, and confront her with that? How dare you? But that's just one way of looking at it. Now, I do see there's a couple of comments, and then I'm going to be getting to our kids' education because that is on the election. I think it is critical, but I wanted to bring up that breaking news. John says, my coverage of the Broome Community College, the BCC, Broome Community College event. He says, this works very well with low information students and weak-willed individuals. The illusion of choice, which is what you saw on display. And that is a 2-hour video. I invite people to check it out for yourself and to see the entire event where I covered everything that was said, everything that was presented to the students, exactly how the entire event went. And it stayed exactly as you say, John. It was the illusion of choice. It was a railroad. You start wherever you are and you end up only in one place. You are part of the partisan machine. You are an operative of the progressive movement. You must agree. There is no other option. There is no other choice. There is no other voice. But John mentions many times we hear how colleges are partisan liberal breeding grounds. So I'm glad you're touching on this brainwashing is occurring in middle education, which I am definitely going to be going over in detail in just a moment. John goes on to say, John Cordisco says, if I was there, I would have lost it long before now. How did some of the individuals handle it? Well, a lot of people who were there, there was maybe one other individual, two other individuals that I know of that weren't quite on board. Now, most of the students, and you can see this in the video for yourself, most of them were there for extra credits. They were, the professors that were putting that event on were actually giving extra credit to their students, so they went there as a means to raise up their grade. There were a couple of students who were very political and partisan, and they were there because they were believers. And anyone else stayed quiet, except me. I wasn't. But I was about the only one who was actually willing to say anything, and I was quickly droned out. So it was a difficult event. But that being said, that college event, again, we've seen what's happened to our children when we got to see them staying at home, learning remotely, and we got to see the class, the type of books that were being read to them, the type of material they were being taught, which was inappropriate based on age and inappropriate and based on content, and it was incredibly partisan and political. And then nowadays they say, oh, that's not happening anymore, even though it still is. But what about those middle students? What about students in the middle grades? What's happening with them? Well, let me show you. Now, I received this document from a teacher. Doesn't matter what state it is. It's a state here in the United States. It's a teacher of English. This is for English. Okay? This is the National Council. Oh, let me show you. Come on. Give me that. There it is. This is from the National Council of Teachers of English, NCTE. This is the organization that provided this document. This is going out to every English teacher, middle school English teacher in the United States. So all of the kids, they're in eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, 7th grade. They're all getting this directive. This is the teaching materials that teachers are told you have to teach based on this format. This is how the teachers are judged and evaluated. This is how they get to keep their jobs or they lose their jobs by how closely they adhere to the following information. And this was sent out across the nation. Across the nation. And what you see here, as we go on, and we'll put the chat back up, and what you see here is this is the definition of literacy in a digital age. This was first created and promoted back on November 7th of 2019. So this has been going on for 5 years. So there is an entire class of students that have graduated, maybe 2 classes of students that have graduated being taught this. That's at the minimum. At least 2 classes of students have been taught these principles and have graduated. And I want you to understand what is in this. So to teach digital literacy, let me stop for a second. When I say literacy, the definition of the word literally, of literacy, coming from the Oxford languages, the Oxford Dictionary, the ability to read and write. I thought everyone understood that. It should be universal. If you understand English and you have learned English, you've gotten past 6th grade, then you know literacy means to read and to write, to comprehend written English. That's what literacy is. But it seems that is not what it means anymore. in the modern day, in a modern school for middle school students, the definition of literacy has a different meaning because of the format. Mind you, I can write on a piece of paper. I can write and have it typed out as a book. I can have it as a newspaper. I can put that writing in a video. But somehow, because we are in a digital age where people type in terms of text messages, people type in all kinds of formats, but somehow, because we are in a digital age, because the internet exists, literacy no longer is learning how to read and write. Literacy is about politics. Literacy is about being partisan and progressive. Let me show you. So, the definition of literacy in a digital age, it is the National Council of English Teachers definition makes it clear that the continued evolution of curriculum, assessment, and teaching practices is necessary. They have to change. So it's not enough to learn what A, B, C, what the word cat means, what the word dog means. No, we have to change beyond that. That's not enough to teach kids what a word means or how to write the words. No. You have to evolve. You have to move on. You have to progress and be progressive. Literacy has always been a collection of communicative and sociocultural practices shared amongst communities. No, that is not literacy. It's many things, but it's not literacy. Literacy is learning, this is the word cat. This is the word dog. This is the word cup. This is what they mean. That is literacy. What they're talking about is political literacy. What they're talking about is political ideology, which is not the same thing as literacy. So already in the first sentence, we have found out that they are telling teachers to middle school students, you are going to teach politics. You're going to teach partisan politics as part of English classes, where kids are supposed to learn how to write better sentences, to write better paragraphs, to better be able to convey the thought in their head in written language. That's the whole point of literacy. It is to convey the whole English language. Any language is meant to take the thought in your head and to convey it in that language, whether it's spoken or written or sang or any other format. It is conveying the thoughts that you have to another individual so that they can understand what you are thinking, whatever it may be. And therefore, it doesn't mean just politics. It doesn't mean your socio-cultural practices. It means I need to eat. It means I want to go outside. I want to play a game. I want to say hello. I want to date you. It doesn't have to be socio-cultural practices. It doesn't have to be political. But they want it to be. They must, and they go on to say, as a society and technology changes, so does literacy. No, literacy does not change. Comprehension, reading comprehension, does not change. The word is a word. It has a meaning. That meaning didn't change because you saw it in a comic book or you wrote it down on a piece of paper or you're reading it off the internet. It does not change. A cup still means a cup, whether it's on the internet or whether it's in a recipe book or whether I'm writing it down. It didn't change its meaning. But according to these national teaching guidelines, somehow, because it's on a computer, it did change. And it became political. I don't understand how it did that. This is what they're teaching your kids right now. This is the indoctrination. And they wanted to emphasize certain parts, okay? For these kids to be active, successful participants in a global society. We're not in a global society. America is the American society. We have a national society. We have a state society. You have a local community. And because we exist on the planet, yes, we're part of the globe, but I'm not part of what's happening in Angola. I'm not part of what's happening in Chad or South Africa or in Laos. I have nothing to do with their communities, their learning, their language, and what they're doing right now has nothing to do with me. And that's true for you too. Whatever's happening in Chile, Bolivia, has nothing. Brazil has nothing to do with you right now. That's not part of your community. So no, we are not in this global society. This is a great excuse for conform. This is how they say you must conform, because it's a global society. And to be part of that, you must do what we say. Not because it means that's going to help someone in Laos or in Thailand. It's because they want you to obey. Stop thinking, do what you're told. So what are the keys to be a successful participant in a global society? Promote cultural sustaining communication and recognize the bias and privilege present in interactions. What the hell does that have to do with learning English, being able to read and write? I'm going to say this several times. You're going to hear me say that same thing over and over again. And I want you to really think about this. I want you to understand what your kid is going through. How does that help them read or write? It doesn't. You also examine the rights, that's politics, the responsibilities, and ethical implications, that's politics, of the use and creation of information. What? Determine how and to what extent text and tools amplifies one's own and others' narratives, as well as counter unproductive narrative. What's an unproductive narrative? If a kid is writing a story about his cat or how he spent the summer or reviewing a movie or a book, how is his or her narrative, unproductive? How is it unproductive to describe, to share your opinion, your view, what you experienced? Because you're learning how to read and to write, to better convey the thought in your head to other people through your native language. Maybe it's your second language, whichever. How does that have to do with being ethical and having ethical implications? There is no ethical implication of me putting in a book report. But they want it to. They want your kids to think that. They go on to say, recognize and honor the multilingual literacy identities. My God, that is a mouthful of nothing. Multilingual literacy identities? What is that even supposed to mean? You need a thesaurus to define this. That and some you need a college sociology book and a thesaurus to understand what they're trying to say for teachers in 7th, 8th, 9th grade who are trying to teach kids how to write a better sentence. These are the kids that need Grammarly. Kids who have been taught this crap is the reason why Grammarly is doing so well, why we are seeing that Gen Z is being fired at a rate of about 60% after graduating from college because they can't write, because they can't communicate. And they can't write or communicate because of this crap. Because they're not learning how to read or write. They have no comprehension because it's not being taught to them. It goes on to say, to recognize cultural experiences individuals bring to learning environments. What the hell does that mean? And provide opportunities to promote, amplify, and encourage these differing variations of language. Wait a minute, there's one language. There's American English. There's British English. There's even Indian English if you're in India. There's Spanish. There's different Spanish. Spanish is different in okay, Cuba versus Puerto Rico versus Bolivia. Okay, I give you that. Fair enough. But we're not talking about different languages. They're saying different dialects, different jargon, different register. In other words, they're talking about Ebonics. You may not have heard that term recently because it's not favorable. It fell out of favor because everyone said it's stupid, because it's insulting. It is absolutely racist, but that's what they mean. Those are the words they're using, Ebonics. They have redefined Ebonics. And for those who don't know what Ebonics is, it is the movement where guttural gang low English is used, broken English is used, and people say, well, it's okay for black people to speak with broken English, with guttural and gang-related terms. That's just, they're poor, they're dumb, it's okay. They're black, they're dumb, they're poor, so it's all right. That's how they speak. I'm sorry. There is nothing that prevents me from being able to speak as well as anyone else. And because I have studied and I understood English and reading and comprehension and writing, I may be a little bit better than some. Okay, and there are those who are far better than I am. I think Dennis Leary is a wonderful expressive comedian, and he has a great understanding of the language. So does Chris Rock, as another great example of that. There are many actors and entertainers, wonderful grasp of English. Many English teachers and many individual people have a great ability to speak and to write and to comprehend. And that has nothing to do with someone's race. It has nothing to do with their gender. It has nothing to do with their gender preference. It has nothing to do with their religion. That is only about comprehension. And to say anything else is insulting and demeaning to the individuals, especially the young minds that are reliant on the teachers to give them the tools to be able to develop their minds. Again, this is why we have a generation that is obsessed with Grammarly and similar types of programs that read and write for these kids because they're incapable of doing it themselves. And that is a signal of the end of your society when your youth do not know how to think or comprehend for themselves. They can only do what they are told, and that is all they can comprehend. That is the end of a society. That is the death knell of a society and a language. And that's what they are promoting right now. Again, this is from the National Council of Teachers of English. This is what your kid is being taught right now in middle school in America. It gets far, far worse. Let's go on down. By the way, the section here was highlighted for current teachers in 2024 teaching English to middle school students. Having knowledge and understanding of the various texts and tools available is important for using them intentionally. I don't know how you use them unintentionally. I give you an English book, how do I unintentionally use the English book? I beat you on the head with it? You're supposed to learn by osmosis? I don't understand. If you read, we understand, we find out what you comprehend. I give you a dictionary, I help you to understand the words you don't understand. That's English. That's how you learn. I don't know how you do that unintentionally, but let's go on. Being literate means making choices and using text and tools in a way that match purpose. That is not literacy. It has nothing to do with literacy. This is something entirely different. This is political indoctrination. This is partisan indoctrination. It is just in general indoctrination. This has nothing to do with literacy. Being literate doesn't mean making a choice that I use this tool or that tool. It means, do you understand and comprehend the written language? Do you understand the words in the language? That is literacy. They go on to say, literacy also means thinking about text and tools in a new way. Again, how am I supposed to think about it in a different way? Am I supposed to take a book and beat you over the head and that's now how you're going to learn? Of course not. So the way people learn to read and write doesn't change. The language may change. Maybe you use, going back in the old days, a lot of people learned French. It was one of the primary languages on the planet. In the future, it might be Spanish. It could possibly be Japanese or Chinese. Maybe it's a mix of all of those. Going all the way back, people used to know Latin. Then they learned Greek. So maybe the language will change. And therefore, the book you have, well, it might be in English, or it might be in Greek, or it might be in Latin, could be in Spanish or in Chinese, depending on where in the world you are and what is the dominant language in that part of the world you're in. But how you learn to read and how you learn to comprehend has not changed. It doesn't matter if it's on an iPad or if it's on an Android phone or whether it's an actual physical book. It doesn't matter. Is this, I don't know, for the national teachers out there, for the English teachers across the United States, am I somehow not making sense? I hope that the teachers have enough comprehension to understand what I am saying to them, and definitely to the National Council of Teaching for Teachers of English. I hope you understand this, because I don't know that they do. They're so obsessed with politics and virtue signaling that they seem to have misunderstood what their basic job is. Teach kids how to read and to write, and if they know that, maybe teach them how to do it better. Oh my God, this is insulting and bad. It gets worse, guys. It gets worse. Where's the section? They want teachers to advocate for equitable access to and accessibility of text, tools, and information. They're advocates? Since when did a teacher become an advocate for politics? Oh, I know since when. Since 2016. Under the Obama administration, teachers became advocates for politics rather than just being teachers. You know what? When I was in school, I know, a long time ago, but when I was in school, I didn't know if my teachers were married unless they, Mr., Mrs., that's it. Okay, so sometimes I knew if a teacher was married or not. I didn't know if they were gay. I didn't know if they were straight. I didn't know if they were Democrats. I didn't know if they were Republicans or if they were libertarians, if they were third party. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know what car they drove, and I didn't care. It wasn't part of me understanding anything. I don't need to know if they thought they were men or women. Unnecessary. I didn't need to know if they got divorced, if they were married, if they were dating someone, if they had sex last night or not. I don't need to know. Unimportant to my life. I didn't need to know if they were paying their bills or not, if they owned their own house, if they were buying something. I didn't care. None of that is necessary for a student to learn. It is that simple. None of that. That is all ancillary. That is useless information that only distracts from the actual lessons they are there to learn. It will not help you learn how to add or multiply or subtract. It will not teach you algebra or trigonometry. You will not learn philosophy. You will not learn logic or reading or writing or science. You can't learn any of that if you're too busy being obsessed about whether or not your teacher is in the right political party and whether or not they voted and whether or not they're dating he, she, it. I'm sorry, that's not important. Not to the student, not if you're trying to teach them, not if they're there to learn. It is absolutely important if you are trying to indoctrinate them. If you have a partisan political ideology that you are trying to embed in their mind, then yes, all of that is important. The virtue signaling is essential if you are trying to create a political drone. But if you're trying to have a human being who is thinking, who can critically think especially, then no, none of that is useful. But that's what they want. Advocates for equitable access. What is that supposed to mean? So, okay, I have a book, but you know what? Only the black kids get to read the book. And the white kids, I don't know what they do. They just get to stand around. The Chinese kids, the Asian kids, they get to stand around. But the books go to the black kids. That's it. You know what? My problem when I was in high school, let me share something with everyone for a moment. And I'm going to get to the comments, but let me share something with you. You know what the problem I had in high school? I went to Evander Childs High School in the Bronx. This is back in the 1980s. Yes, I am that old. And in the 1980s, I was in 12th grade. I was taking the physics course. Yeah, I was an egghead back then. Fantastic. So I'm taking the advanced science, which was a physics class. Not most of my peers weren't even in that. And I was taking that class, and I was also in a special program spending half the year at CUNY. That's the City College of New York. And I was going to the City College, and I was spending half the term in my high school. I learned more about physics in my chemistry 101 class at City College than I did in my physics class in high school. My physics book for my physics class in high school was older than I was. I was 18. The book was 21. There's the problem. The problem wasn't that the book was, I had it and I'm black. Guess what? My good friend Juan Rhee, he was Korean. There were a bunch of white girls in the class, and black guys, and black girls, and white guys. We had a little bit of everybody in the class. We had some Hispanics, like myself. We had a mix of, we had some immigrants, first generation immigrant, first immigration immigrants in my high school, in my classes, in my advanced physics class, which is a joke. How can you have an advanced physics class and the book that I'm reading is older than me? I was reading the Wall Street Journal, and I was finding in their science edition every Tuesday, or was it this? Yeah, it was the Journal. And every Tuesday in their science division, I was reading more about physics and what was updated than I was in that class. Again, I was learning more about physics in my college first year 101 chemistry course than I was in the physics class. I literally was playing D&D. I had a D&D group with me. We were drinking, okay, giving away a little bit here. I wasn't a perfect child. Me and a couple of my friends, we were drinking rum and coke. We had Pepsi. We were drinking Pepsi and rum and coke and playing D&D in the physics class. And I was acing the physics class in high school because the material was so old. It was 21 years old. I don't blame the teacher. God bless him. He had a difficult time. Every single student in that classroom knew more about physics than was in the material he was trying to teach us. But you know what? No one was denied any of the books. Everyone had the same absolutely outdated book. The problem wasn't access to the book. It was that the book was old and ancient, archaic. It was out of date. It was incorrect. That was the problem. So I don't care about equitable access. saying, well, the black kids got to get the book. The book is wrong. There's your problem. Start there. Some of the material we are trying to give kids is archaic. It is not correct. We are instilling them a foundation that is warped because we have material that is wrong. Just flat out wrong. There's your problem. It's not, did the black kid get it instead of the white kid? Did the Asian kid get it instead of the Hispanic? That's not the problem. The book is useless. The material is useless. You're wasting everyone's time. No one is learning. I learned more about D&D than I did physics in that class. It had nothing to do with the teacher. God bless him, he tried. I aced every one of his tests. He had nothing else he could provide me because the material he was given to provide to me was inadequate. Not because he didn't have a book for me, not because he was choosing between the white kids and the black kids and the Hispanics and the Asians. It was because the school system, New York City school system, was archaic and broken. Because individuals like the National Council of Teachers of English were too busy about politics rather than being focused on teaching students. That's your problem. So this goes on to say, not only should learners have opportunities to explore and engage with a wide variety of inclusive text and tools. What is that supposed to mean? Inclusive? So not only do the black kids get the book, but the book has to be black as well. It has to be about black people. Because I can't learn science because Isaac Newton wasn't black. I understand Doctor Who may have thought Isaac Newton, maybe he was Indian. He wasn't. He was an Englishman. White as hell. No big deal. Science doesn't care about the color of your skin. Point blank, period. No one cared that Albert Einstein is white or Jewish or German. You care about E equals MC squared. Is that correct? That's the science you care about. We care about his unified field theory. We don't care about the color of skin and whether or not he had a haircut or not. That's not important. That's called science. That's called math. By the way, that's also called English. Am I missing that? Is that not being conveyed properly? If there is a teacher in the audience who thinks I am wrong, please speak up. You can call in 929-715-8569. You can text. You can put it on YouTube. You can put it on Facebook. You can put it on Rumble. Please tell me, how am I wrong? How is anything I have just said wrong? I wish, please, somebody send this to the National Council of Teachers of English and ask them to respond to me about this and tell me how I am wrong. Because they can't. This is stupid. It goes even worse. There's even more to this idiocy that is being programmed into your kid right now. This is what they are shoving down their throat. Let me find, where's this next one? Promote culturally sustaining communication and recognize the bias and privilege present in interactions. What the hell? This is virtue signal garbage. It has nothing to do with literacy. Let me remind you that this is supposed to be about literacy. This is about English for middle school students. This is not for college classes. This is not for kindergarten kids. This is for kids in grades 7, 8, 9. This is to teach them how to write and how to write better, how to better convey the thought in their head on a piece of paper so someone else can read it. That is what this is supposed to be about. I want you to remember that. It's about literacy, learning to read and write. And they are talking about promoting culturally sustaining communication. What the hell is that? I speak English. I am in America. Maybe I can go to England. They'll understand me there too. Some words a little different accent. same language, will understand each other because I have reading comprehension, because I was taught to read and write. I have literacy. Anyone who speaks English and I can have a conversation. Why? Because literacy and comprehension. Learned it when I was in 6th grade. Guess what? Still got it. You may not like it, but it's still there. Everybody who's pissed off at me, all of the leftist progressives out there that are listening to me and they're pissed off and trying to get the channel shut down, guess what? It's not because you don't understand what I'm saying. It's because you do understand what I'm saying and you don't like it. It's because literacy exists for me and for you. But the next generation, maybe not. Not with all this virtue signaling that's going on. Promote culturally sustaining communication. How is that supposed to make you literate? Look, you want to read James Baldwin instead of William Shakespeare? Fantastic. I have no problem. Great writers, the both of them. You want to read J.R.R. Tolkien? He's also a great writer. Whether or not it's fantasy, he's a great writer. He has a great understanding of the English language. Pick your material you want to read, but it doesn't matter if I'm trying to teach you how to read, how to comprehend the words, to learn the meanings, and how to better put them together so that someone else will understand the idea in your head. But to tell me that it has to be culturally sustaining, that black kids can only read James Baldwin, why in the hell can't I read J.R.R. Tolkien? Why can't I read Ulysses and the Iliad? Why can't I read anything else? Oh, but they don't want to answer that. Well, then you'll be white. No, I won't. I guarantee you, no matter what I read, I will never become white. That is a physiological, absolute fact. You can change the checkbox all day long. I can be Samoan. I can fill out the checkbox and say I'm Samoan every day of the week. Guess what? I'm a black Hispanic. Not going to change. I'm never a Latinx because that doesn't exist. That's like a unicorn. It's a fictional, mythical thing created by leftists. I am a black Hispanic. I always will be. Doesn't matter what I read. Oh my God, this is insulting. And recognize the bias and privilege. Recognize, what the hell is that supposed to mean? I'm not a victim. See, it's bias and privilege if you're white, and you're a victim if you're black or Hispanic or anything else. I'm sorry, I reject all of that. Why? Because I have reading comprehension, because I have read books and materials, I have read through their ideology, and I reject it because I comprehend it, because I understand what it means. It is demeaning and dehumanizing. Look at what they're doing to our kids. This is very upsetting. Let me take a break from that for a second. I want to go to the comments. So, Douglas Thompson was with us. Said, great game all around. Okay. Thank you. I'm not sure what the context is of that, Douglas. Sorry, I may have missed that, but please do let me know. But I'm upset. I'm so upset about this. And I think we should all be upset about this because this is our future. This is the future. They're not teaching kids to learn how to read and write. They're teaching kids how to obey. That's what the English teachers are doing. They're wasting kids' time trying to teach them to obey. Oh, see, you're black. Well, then you can't understand what's going on with, Obi-Wan in Star Wars because he's white. Why the hell not? Is he a human being? Yes, he is. Okay, then I can understand him. I can empathize with him. I can sympathize with him. I can understand what he's doing and going through. Why? Because not only is there an actor up there, you know what? We used to have things called books, and there was an extended universe, and I could read about all of those characters. Why is The Lord of the Rings internationally read? It's been printed in 80 different languages. It's been around for 60 years. Why do you think they made movies of it? Because it's popular, because it actually conveys, and people in China and in England and in India and in South America all love Gimli, and all of them love Legolas. And it has nothing to do with the fact that they're Chinese or they're Indian or they're French or they're whatever the hell they might be. It's because we can read and comprehend, and therefore we can understand what it is to be those characters in that scenario, even though we don't have to fight trolls, cave trolls in real life, because we never will go into the caves of Moria and magic doesn't exist, but we can understand it. Is this too much? This is too much for what the National Council of Teachers of English can understand. They cannot understand these basic things. I can read Shakespeare. One of the best experiences I ever had in reading Shakespeare in particular was from, I think it was, matter of fact, I was in middle school. I had a middle school teacher, a little short woman, and she was trained as a Shakespearean actress, which she was very good at. And she decided that we would spend the entire year learning Romeo and Juliet in the original Shakespearean language. No translation. The original text. And it was really great because she would read various verses. She would go through chapters and read it to us. And we knew that we had something that was really juicy, something that was really sexy, because she would go beat red as we would read a section, which told us, oh, this is perverted. There's something in here. Many people don't realize Shakespeare was a dirty old man. Romeo and Juliet is absolutely X-rated. It is an absolutely pornographic story. But a lot of people don't realize that because it's not written like porno is today. They don't have the reading comprehension. They don't know the words that are there. And they misunderstand the words they see because they don't know Old English or Middle English. They don't know that. So they don't know what the meanings are. They don't know how the meaning may have changed for various words, or what are the extended meanings of several words. They don't understand the symbology that is being described to us in the writing. Okay, that's because their teachers failed them. Failed to convey to them that there is a greater meaning than just the words. There's a greater meaning than what you saw on the Disney remake of the movie. There's a meaning in the words. And if you have literacy, you will convey more of that meaning and they will understand it better. And I know I probably blew some people's mind. They don't know. Romeo and Juliet is X-rated. It's pornographic. It just happens to be in Middle English. That's why people don't realize and recognize it instantly as being pornographic. But you talk to any Shakespearean actor, it's pornographic. It may not be acted on stage pornographically, but the words themselves, the meanings of those words, the message that's being conveyed, it's completely pornographic. And I'm not upset about that, because you have to work for it. It's not something that you just pick up and, oh, look, it's a picture. Ooh, look at the porn pictures. Ooh. No, you got to work for it. You got to use your brain. You got to think about it. And the symbology is there. You take it on. You understand it. Now, you still may not like it. I'm not saying that you have to love Shakespeare. Same thing with, you don't have to like J.R.R. Tolkien. You don't have to like Game of Thrones. You don't have to like Ender's Game. There's any number of books out there. you don't have to love them. Lovecraft. You may hate Lovecraft. I think it's fantastic. He's got some of the great. What is the Color of Space? Fantastic book, but it is not easy reading. Cthulhu is a nasty, nasty being. But there is something to be conveyed there if you have literacy. And literacy has nothing. In all of the books, and every one of the books, and every one of the authors that I am pointing out, not once does the cultural sustaining communication or the recognition of bias and privilege have anything to do with any of those stories. The Count de Monte Cristo, which I think is a phenomenal story, wonderfully written, and often well done in the acting. Not the 2024 French version. I think that movie sucks. But 2002 with James Cazaville, fantastic version of The Count of Monte Cristo. The story itself, fantastic. Wonderful. Great story. Do I have to be French to understand that? No. Do I have to recognize the bias of French people versus Africans or Chinese or South Americans? No, I don't, because it has nothing to do with that. Don't care. That's not going to add anything to the story. The pirates don't have to suddenly become Chinese women. Peter Pan, another one. Oh, we got to talk about Wendy. No, it's not about Wendy. It's about, in fact, Wendy is a great, important character in Peter Pan because of what she represents. Womanhood, growing up, adulthood, responsibility. She embodies that message as opposed to Peter Pan, who is the id run, not the id, the ego. The ego run amok. He is a child. He is a forever child. He is a sad figure. Peter Pan is sad, not joyful. He's not the hero. Wendy is the hero, but not because Wendy is a girl. It's because Wendy represents becoming an adult and being responsible. And Peter Pan is what it represents to be selfish. Now, does that change? If Wendy's black, does that change? No. If Peter Pan is Asian, does it change? No. Doesn't matter. That isn't important to who those characters are. It isn't important to the message that is being conveyed. And we only understand that because literacy is important in both the writing of the story and as well as the understanding of it, in reading it. It has nothing to do with bias or privilege, because that will not tell me that Wendy represents motherhood and adulthood and responsibility. Bias and privilege does not tell me that Peter Pan represents selfishness. Oh my God. Let me go to some of the comments. So John says, "Go off, King. About time someone covers stuff like this." You know what? Sometimes I get information from you, the audience. People send me stuff, and I'm like, I've got to cover this. I've got to talk about this. It's like when I was covering the Fox News debate with Kamala Harris and Bret Baier, the interview, and I was telling my friend Larry Sharp, Larry, you've got to cover this. You're going to have a different take than I do, but you've got to cover this because people won't believe if they have to see this. They have to understand this. Let's break it down, and you do it your way, I'll do it my way, but people got to see what this is because it's crap. Same thing when it comes to stuff like this. You're being told your kids are no one's trying to indoctrinate your kids. Yes, they are. Yes, they absolutely. If they are doing this instead of teaching, then yeah, this is indoctrination. This isn't teaching. Let me go on. Dow says, comprehension aids the processing of data by imagination to produce the text to dirty picture imagery of Shakespeare. Dirty old playwright, face green smiling. Yeah, I love it. But comprehension is necessary, which means you have to have literacy. That's why dictionaries exist. My God, the worst thing you can ever do is let your kid, if anyone is letting their kid use Grammarly, smack that kid. You have failed that kid. Get them a dictionary and a thesaurus and tell them to read. Find the word you're looking for. Learn the word. Learn the meaning. Learn the alternative words. I saw this one Grammarly commercial. I kept using the same words because you have no imagination, you drone. You useless human being. Pick up a thesaurus. Learn more. Find out other ways to say, I don't know, sexy or kitten or whatever the hell it is you're trying to say. Dow says, tyranny is tyranny. Betrayal is betrayal. They are human conditions, not racially cultured ones, which is true. Which is why you can read The Count of Monte Cristo, which is about revenge. It's about betrayal. It's about oppression. You can get all of that out of there because it's not about being white or being straight or being it's not about those things. Oh my God. He goes on to say, Dow says, identity politics centered, removes the human element and makes any importance arbitrarily shallow. The only indoctrination I want my kids to imbibe is that of liberty first principles of the Constitution. I understand. But see, I don't think people have seen, and this is important, Dow. People haven't seen this. They don't know this document exists. They don't know that this is being sent across the entire nation to teachers in middle school, saying this is what you must give. That unions for teachers across this nation are telling their teachers, you better teach this or you will lose your job. That you will not be able to teach unless you teach this crap, unless you indoctrinate these kids. Your job performance, your pay, your ability to have the job in the first place are all built around you have to push this partisan political hackery, which has nothing to do with teaching. You need to make the next generation of drones, and they have to be obedient and loyal to the ideology. That is insulting and bad. This is how we lose a nation. This is how our nation is destroyed. Look at this. Examine the rights and responsibilities and ethical implications of the use and creation of information. When I write the sentence, the cat went to the store, there is no ethical implication. This is not about rights or responsibilities. The cat went to the store. The cat was in the store. When I read The Cat in the Hat, Dr. Seuss was brilliant. Dr. Seuss actually wrote Green Eggs and Ham, was a book that was written by Dr. Seuss as a bet with his publisher that he could take the words of a second grade student, all the words that a second grade student should know, and put that into a story. Think of the imagination and capability of someone to be able to write saying, I can only use words found in a second grader's vocabulary. And he made Green Eggs and Ham, which at one point in my life, I had that memorized beginning to end. And I'm not talking about as a child. I'm talking in my 30s. I could tell you Green Eggs and Ham. Matter of fact, if I really tried, I could probably quote you all of the story of Green Eggs and Ham. Will you have them in a house? Will you have them with a mouse? Will you have them on a train? Will you have them on a plane? I will not eat green eggs and ham. I will not eat green eggs and ham, Sam, I am. I will not eat them in a house. I will not eat them with a mouse. I will not eat them in a boat. I will not eat them with a goat. I will not eat green eggs and ham, Sam, I am. Yes, I remember. Yes, it sticks with me. Why? It was fun. It was wordplay. And it was done for a second grader. And it's fun to remember those memories. But yet, he's also evoking a story. It is visual. It is entertaining. It is a lesson. Now you know what a goat is. What is a goat, a boat, a mouse, a house. You know about a train and a plane. You know about eggs and ham. You even know what green eggs are. And that someone will not eat them. You're learning aspects of what it is to be a human being. You're learning about using your imagination in a way that isn't being told, okay, write this now and then write that. Or going to an AI and saying, use your program magic and put together a sentence for me. Write my paper for me. Write a TV show like Batwoman. Write a TV show like The Rings of Power. Put that together for me. No. My God, these kids this is torture. We are torturing children right now. We are destroying our society because some people want to put their politics over everything else. Every week now, I am doing the Sci-Fi channel. I'm doing my sci-fi video game thing because we all need a break from politics from time to time. I understand that. And that's why Saturdays, 3 o'clock, I do my sci-fi thing. I do the sci-fi challenge. I talk about sci-fi issues. I do video games. Fantastic. But you have to have an imagination for that. I was listening to someone talking about, for over an hour, talking about 13 different interpretations of the movie John Carpenter's The Thing, which is a remake of the 1958 version of The Thing from Outer Space, which is a movie which is based on the book from, I think, 1953, The Thing from Outer Space. So that's fantastic. And I'm listening to this one guy for an hour and a half talk about the different aspects of the movie and what are different interpretations that can be found in the symbology of it and in the words that people are using and the words that they're not using. About, who's the most religious person in the entire movie, John Carpenter's 1982 The Thing? It happens to be McCready, which happens to be Kurt Russell's character. Because he says, then you have to trust in God. And he's the only one who mentions anything about God or religion in the entire movie. There is not a single religious symbol in the entire movie. Not another word is mentioned about religion. And so the only aspect and the only religious person in the entire movie is Kurt Russell playing McCready, the pilot. And what does it mean when nothing else in the entire film is said about religion? And the one moment he does bring it up, how much power does that have? How much is being shared? And I know, you didn't notice it, but your brain did. That's right. Your brain picked up that he's the only one who said that. He's the only one who's religious at all. And that he chose in the middle of the events that were happening in the movie, The Thing, that he chose a specific moment and he told this to another character. What was he conveying to that individual? You know what? I understand all of that because of literacy. I understand words. I have meanings for those words. I can write those words. I can read those words. I can speak those words. And when other people speak those words to me, I can understand them. But instead of any of that, we are getting they're being taught, kids are being taught about the ethical implications of using the words. You're talking about a space alien. You're talking about a fictional creature, an elf. Let's get this straight. Oh my God. And if you can't use your imagination, then you can't have empathy. I think that's important to understand. What they're doing here, there is no such thing as empathy or sympathy because you don't have an imagination. You're so busy trying to teach these kids, well, this is your right. You don't even know what the word right means, as in the capital RIGHT. You don't even know what that is. You don't know what a responsibility is because you're not being taught that. You're being taught to obey. How can you have sympathy if you don't even understand what it is you're supposed to be sympathetic about? When you don't even understand what is being said to you. They go on to say, networked digital spaces offer the opportunity. Well, you know what? Non-networked digital spaces can also offer opportunities. The fact that it's networked, which means the internet, doesn't mean that it's superior. It depends on what you're connected to. But going on, digital spaces offer the opportunity to instantaneously share, aggregate, and access torrents of information from others. Yes, you have the Library of Alexandria. If you have an internet-capable phone, you have the Library of Alexandria available to you, and no one uses it that way. No one accesses it for that. They'd rather look at cat videos and play stupid games rather than actually read and expand your mind. The TV was created to educate, and instead, TV is now Rings of Power. And Doctor Who, who's this gay, black, Rwandan Scotsman. I'm sorry, we've lost it. We have just lost it. These spaces also raise questions about aspects of intellectual property. No, they don't. And ownership of ideas. No, they don't. Content and resources online. No, they don't raise those questions. You can raise those questions. Absolutely, you can do that. But that's not what they're there for. And guess what? That's not what the teacher is there for. My God, this is so... I'm going to have to move on because I am absolutely frustrated. Our kids, no wonder Gen Z is being fired. 60% of graduates from college are being fired. And in case you think I'm kidding about that, here goes the article. It's not a new article. This isn't a new thing. Some people are just talking about it now. The article came out September 23rd of 2024. It is almost a month old. People are just now noticing it. It's in Newsweek. People are just now finding out that Gen Z employees are being fired en masse. More than 50%, 60% are being fired. 75% are incapable of doing the jobs, basic jobs, right out of college. And employers don't want them because they don't know anything. They have no skills. They have no knowledge. They have no imagination. They are useless. To quote Newsweek, employers most often cited a lack of motivation. Well, that would be because they're not inspired. It's because they don't have imaginations. It's because they can't understand or contemplate the future, the consequences of their actions. In recent graduate hires, 50% lack motivation because they don't understand the consequences. They haven't envisioned the future. They didn't know what career they were getting into. They don't know what the outcome's going to be because no one told them directly. They can't imagine it for themselves. Going on, employers most often cited 39% said poor communication skills. That's Grammarly for you. Fully over a third of the students can't read or write and cannot speak. And you know what that means? You can't think. Reading, writing, communication is spoken language is a function of thought. If you cannot think of the word, you cannot convey the word. You don't have the word. Intelligence is the ability to convey the thoughts in your head to others intelligently. And if you cannot do that, you are unintelligible and unintelligent. That's just the reality. People may not like that, but you have to understand what I'm saying to know whether you like it or not. But guess what? It's still true. employers are saying that 46% said a lack of professionalism. Well, to have professionalism, you have to comprehend the code of conduct of the job. You have to comprehend what it is that is appropriate or inappropriate. You have to have an imagination to envision that if I dress in a certain manner, would that be conveyed or would that be understood as being appropriate or not? Do I even understand what the word appropriate means? Well, that's a 7th grade word. And maybe if the teacher wasn't busy trying to teach you how to be a progressive, you might have understood what the word means, which means you'd still have a job. And these kids are graduating from college because of Grammarly, not because they can write. It's because an AI program is looking at the jarbled mess of things that they are putting on a page and figuring out what it is they're supposed to be saying. Oh my God, this is so horrendous. I find this very upsetting. Language is my thing, obviously. I do a lot of speaking. I'm gregarious. Absolutely. Speaking is one of my strongest attributes to be able to convey the knowledge, the information that I absorb on a regular basis to you, so that if you don't have the time, you will be able to absorb some of the information and then maybe you will go and research it on your own. It is meant to be inspirational, educational, informative, and a little bit, trying to get you on my side. Say, hey, I'm not that bad. Come back again. Trying to do a lot of things. That's because I have a grasp of knowledge, of language. I have a grasp of the gift of the gab to be able to explain and extol these ideas with you. It has nothing to do with what the color of skin you are. They're trying to teach kids that you have to speak to people a certain way because of the color of their skin. Guess what? I don't know what color of skin you are on the other side of this camera. I have no idea what race you are on the other side of the internet. I have no idea what your sexuality or your sexual preference is wherever you are watching this at this moment. And I don't need to. And you literally don't need to know mine. Mind you, I am a great looking guy. I would hope there are a bunch of women who are looking at me going, he's a great looking guy, and watch the program. But I hope they get more than just looking at my pretty face. That's what I hope for. Maybe yes, maybe no. That's fine. But communication, what they are teaching kids that it's not about whether or not I have privilege or not. It has nothing to do with whether or not I'm black or Hispanic or anything else. No. It's about what I'm saying. It's about the information that I am conveying to you and you understanding it, whether it's because of empathy or sympathy or comprehension, whether it's about your imagination or about the facts themselves. It is about knowledge. And we have an entire generation that is bereft of this. And it is continuing. We have generations with an S. Because this is being continued. This isn't a one-time event. And I know there are people who are trying to say, well, it's because of 2020, it's because of the lockdowns and the kids lost their social skills. No, it's not because of 2020. It's not because of the lockdowns. This is happening from 2019. This is before the lockdowns. This is before the globe shut down, before the kids had to go to remote learning. It's not the lockdowns. That's the excuse. That's the cover story. That's what makes it seem like it's not such a big deal. It's not so bad. It's only temporary. No, this is from November 19th, November of 2019. It's not the lockdowns. This is generations. We're destroying our nation, destroying it from the inside. all for partisan political gain. Let me see. By the way, for those who doubt me, here it is again, just so you can see. National Council of Teachers of English, the the NCTE, and you can see for yourself definitions of literacy in a digital age, November 7th, 2019. This is what's being pushed out there right now, so you can see it for yourself. Again, for those who doubt me for some reason, didn't see it earlier. Okay, let me go to some of the comments here. I know, I lost my mind for a while there. This matters to me. This is important. This is the future of our nation. I take it very, very personally because it's going to affect me, my family, my friends, their kids. It's going to affect this nation. This is important. This is a big deal. Let me look at the comments here. Bear with me. Let me look at these comments here. Oh, wow. A lot of comments. Okay. Here it is. Okay, so Dow says it may be new for teachers already in the field. The beginning of this were already apparent in college curriculums circa 2005. Well, I don't doubt that. I'm not saying that it only started in 2019. I'm saying the latest version, which we are going over right now, that is from 2019. And people are using the excuse of 2020 and the lockdowns to excuse this and to say that it's only temporary. You're getting too worked up. It's only temporary. You misunderstand. No. This is indoctrination. It started before the lockdowns, and it's continuing since then, and that is the excuse to minimize the danger that faces this nation. So you're right, it's been happening for a lot longer in many ways, but I want to address the current excuses for it. So thank you for that. Jess says, people don't believe some of this stuff. My oldest son, who was at the time was a junior, was handed a sheet in ROP child development class on privilege. I traced where the paper came from. I was so upset. I emailed the whole school board and principal. I added the document and the video they were told to watch. The teacher had to meet with the principal, and I was found in the right. Yes, because they're going to push this. Your teachers are being forced to do this by their unions, by their schools. They're being oppressed. They don't have a choice. It's either do this or lose the job. So they're doing this. It's now that parents are aware. Now you as a parent are aware of this. You have a choice. You can ignore it or you can do something about it. That's up to you. I'm just making sure you have no illusion about what this is, because they will try and tell you, no, it's not that bad. It's not like that. Yes, it is. I've just shown you the words. I will include the link so you will be able to see it and go to it yourself. Yes, it is that bad. Let's go on. Dow says, back in 2005, we were still able to argue against this kind of crap that we're seeing from the schools and still pass. Once you were out, you just ignored it. Once you graduated, you ignore it because it wasn't mandatory for you to retain a job. It's obvious they are so adamant in accelerating its usage to create activist converts to the complete subversion of the West. Yeah, I agree with you. Coolroy mentions he got out of the Army in '85, and all the government jobs that he had applied for said that they needed to hire more women and minorities. Then they have the audacity to say that white men don't want to work. It's one of those, again, it's that perversion of the truth that we are seeing. Dow says, it's maddening to take a dictionary pre-1900 of older words. So we're talking, that would be late Middle English, early contemporary English, the 1900s, late 1800s, of older words still in common vernacular, and find out how much the definitions have been changed by linguistic authorities. Well, I may have told everyone one of the things why I love language so much. When I was in second grade, I was a bit of a hellion. I think it was second, may have been third grade. I'm pretty sure it was second grade. And I was a bit of a hellion. And I had a teacher, Miss Bingy, who I did not like. Did not like Miss Bingy. And we had to read, back in those days, in the 70s, we had the ABC books. So depending on the grade you were in, you were reading a book that was considered appropriate for your age. And it was, A, B, C, D, E, F, blah, blah. As you went up in grades, you got bigger books. Okay. At the time, I was reading the newspaper cover to cover. I read a unabridged dictionary and I read an encyclopedia because we only had one TV in the house, and that was for my mom, and that was only for the evening when she got off of work. Kids didn't watch TVs, and TVs weren't commonplace like they are now. We're talking about the 70s. They were expensive, they were big, you didn't get to play around with it. That was for the adults. So I read the newspaper. Okay. Read the whole thing, read the encyclopedias, read them all, read an almanac, read it all. That's my reading. I was later tested on this. I had college level reading in the second and third grade. I was advanced. Good for me. So Miss Bingy, in her class, we have the H book, and she's trying to tell me that I didn't know how to read because I wasn't paying attention, because I was bored out of my mind. I had read the entire book, cover to cover, including the appendix, including the definitions. I read everything that was printed, read the whole damn thing well ahead of everyone else, and I was bored. So Ms. Bingy used to get in arguments with me. She thought I couldn't read because I was bored. And she would say, don't be embarrassed, just admit you don't know how to read. I'm like, I know how to read perfectly well. Screw you. You're an idiot. Which would get me kicked out of the classroom. A lot. Well, one day, Miss Schusterman, a teacher down in a classroom nearby, said to me, hey, you're in the hallway, come here. Because the arguments that I would have, big blowouts, everybody heard it. So she said after one of the big blowouts, me yelling at Miss Bingy, telling her she's an idiot because she thinks I don't know how to read, Miss Schusterman called me over, got me into her classroom. Pulled out a book, opened it up, just a random book, opened it up. Read this paragraph. She said, start reading. I started reading from that paragraph, and I just kept reading, read like 2 pages, because I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, and I kept reading. She said, stop. Go sit in the back. From now on, you sit in my classroom, and I'm going to be your teacher from now on. One of the best teachers I ever had. You know how she would punish me? She had an unabridged dictionary that I swear was like that big. Had to be like 2 feet tall. Had definitions of every word to at least the 7th definition. And what she would do, you messed up, she would pick a letter in the alphabet, open up the book, and you'd start writing one, depending on how bad you screwed up, and I usually screwed up pretty bad, so I'd be writing down every single word in the under the letter M to the 3rd or 5th definition. Guess what? I learned a lot of words that way. Words that I still know to this day. Reason why I know what a Jacob's coat is, which is actually one word. For people who don't know, Jacob's coat, it's actually one word. You're wondering, what's a Jacob's coat? Why do they use 2 words to spell one word? It's one of the few words in the English language that are 2 words, but it's actually one word in terms of its meaning and its definition. What is it? It's a lambskin jacket, usually of patches of lambskin that have been dyed and have different colors. That's it. That's what a Jacob's coat is. Lambskin patchwork coat with different tanned color, different tanned patches of leather. That's what it is. How do I remember that? I've remembered it all my life. I learned that second, third grade. We're denying kids the opportunity to have an imagination. We are denying kids the opportunity to learn, to be productive and part of our society. By the way, here's my puppy. It's gone. Say hi. Oh, yeah. I love you too. I know. I love you. You know what that means, folks. And I know thank you. Thank you, Jess. I think he's adorable too. But he's a little upset with me right now. Because it's, 7:18. Okay. I know the beginning of the show was a little bit weird because the first episode, the first hour or so, YouTube kicked me off because they don't like me talking about the election. They didn't like me talking about the election. They didn't want me to inform you of anything. So I apologize for that. But we've been on for a while now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go. Because my dog is very excited, as you can hear. Yeah, I do have to give him he does like to crunch on the water bottles. He loves to crunch water bottles. But trust me, if I give him a water bottle, he'll crunch that so loud, you won't hear anything else in the entire house. He's having fun right now. He's having fun chasing my sister right now. He's protecting me. He's chasing her out. Because she's in while I'm recording, he's chasing her out to protect me. He's a good dog. 13. All right. That being said, folks, I wanted to convey all of that real quick. Let me just show you real quick. Con. Let me show you real quick. Right now, we see, if you're looking at the polling, it's been tightening up. Harris has plateaued. She's at about 47.6. Trump has been increasing. Again, looking at this, I look at the trend. If we're looking back and going back to, this is April of 2024, Trump was at about 42.5%. Today, he happens to be at 46.3. He's increased. But we've seen that Harris has gone from 48% down to 47.6. Is it significant? Not that much, but it is enough. And it shows you the trend of what is happening. Trump has consistently been increasing. Kamala stagnated and is now decreasing. That is the aggregate of all the different polls that are being done right now. And we are seeing why why many Democrats are very upset. In addition to that, if we take a quick look at the battleground states, all the swing states at this time all say Donald Trump. Almost every single one of them is by a point. Again, what is the trend? We are seeing the trend, and when we look at the trend, Trump has overtaken Harris and is now continuing to rise while Harris is falling down. That is, again, the trend is telling us Trump is going to win. And if we take a look at what I said before on the electoral map, well, if you look at the no toss-up version, where is it? No toss-up. There it is. Of the Electoral College, it is now matching what I called over a week ago 312 for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance versus 226 for Kamala Harris and Walz. My prediction, they now have matched what I have been predicting for the most part, and there are some differences. Like I don't see Minnesota could flip. It could be as high as 222, but we'll see. 322, but you're seeing that. If we're looking at the predictions are out there. Have Donald Trump at 55%, Kamala's at 48%. Again, the trend over time, if we're looking at this, look at the 90-day, you can see Kamala has fallen down. Trump has continued to rise. And in terms of, but I will give it to her, Kamala has been more competitive than I expected because she has reversed her disapproval rate of well over 50% and brought it down to 47%, bringing up her approval rate to 45.6%. But I think that's because of the vote blue, no matter who audience that you see out there. I don't think it's because of anything she intrinsically has done, because every interview has revealed her to be horrendous for America. But those are some of the thoughts that I have had. I look forward to everyone leaving their comments, what they agree, what they disagree, what they want to. Please share this, especially, I don't mind, cut out the section talking about education. Send it to every parent you know, every parent with a kid in middle school who's learning English. Send that to them and give me your feedback. I'm happy to hear it from everyone in the comments. Most of all, like, share, subscribe. Otherwise, they're going to do what they did in the first hour. You'll see Google and its algorithm and YouTube. They're going to try and suppress the hell out of us. It's the only way. So, folks, I'll talk to you.